Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hideous Diversion Podcast, episode number 30. Holy camole. I can't believe we've gotten this far. Wow. Today is the 7th of October. We are recording this episode. We have an interesting show lined up for you today. We have two guests, I believe, that are coming in to do some, we'll have a conversation with us in reference to some paranormal activity. Great movie, by the way. So let me introduce, the guy on the side here over here. No, the other side, that side. That's Bryan. He's the co-host and the producer. Hey, Bryan, how you doing?
Hello, I'm Myke.
Hello. That was episode 1. You said that. So, how's it going?
Dude, I've been up since 6 o'clock this morning, and I drove all day aside to stop and film 5 roofs with my drone. So I am a little tired of driving. I literally put my special needs daughter down about 5 minutes before I started talking to you. So I have gone nonstop all day long. So I'm fired up though. Let's do this. You're
a better man than I am because I cannot work on little sleep. And I know what that's like. So kudos to you. So why don't you tell me a little bit about the guests we are going to have on our show?
So we have Ron and Lourdes, not Lourdes like I said it was. It's Lourdes Yacovetti from GonYac Paranormal. And I've been following Ron for about 5 years. We were actually, at one time, we were in the same place at the same time. But I couldn't get over to meet him. And I was really excited because this guy does some wild stuff, man. But I think he is going to be able to explain what he does a little bit better than me. So I'm just
where are they from? Where are they from? California?
No, they're on the East Coast. I'm not sure exactly. Let's just bring them in and ask them.
Oh, all right then.
Hello, Ta-da. You two.
Hey,
hello.
How are you?
Hi.
Welcome to Hideous Diversion Podcast. My name's Myke. My pleasure. Bryan did all the work on getting you guys in, so we're very interested in doing this interview. Why don't you guys start by telling us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Would you like to take the lead?
We do a method called the digital science experience. We take white noise, we slow it down, filter it, and we've been getting voices. If you want to expand, go ahead.
Sure. So it's a form or a methodology of spirit communication or communicating with disembodied consciousness, however one likes to frame it. It's becoming more widespread. There are now versions of it out there that have happened. But when we started doing what was called direct radio voice back in 2019, nobody was doing anything on the landscape that we saw outside of the ghost box modality, which is the one that scans or sweeps through the broadcast. It's in the States, in America, if it's not on TV, it doesn't exist. And that became what I call the Q-tip of the paranormal, which the Q-tip is a cotton swab, but we call it by that brand name because the brand has made itself synonymous with the thing. So ITC, or instrumental transcommunication, became synonymous with spirit boxes or ghost boxes. And we're not saying that they can't work or don't work. But when we came across the works of Dr. Annabella Cardoso, Marcello Bacci, Friedrich Jurgensen, who were European pioneers, not the TV pioneers from America, but the actual pioneers of voice phenomena research, we were blown away that nobody was doing direct radio voice. And all it was they were using a long wave, short wave, like a world band radio, vacant channel, no radio emissions, no sweeping, no spring reverb, no blinky lights. And it was just that empty static. and they were having voices come through, and the efficacy of the method was far superior than I'd ever seen a sweeping box do. And I looked at her, I went,
they were sentences and had meaning, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them, it had meaning. So yeah, we were surprised. It's like,
nobody's doing it.
yeah.
So
I have a question before you go on.
Yeah.
You mentioned this device that works with white noise, correct?
Yeah, it's a method. What we do is not a device, it's a method. But the ghost boxes, we think fundamentally work the same way, but they're sweeping through the broadcast, which has white noise and broadcast.
So my question to you is, why white noise?
Well, EVP research is what predates all this stuff. And this is obviously voices that are not detectable to the human hearing range, which is 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, which is all we can hear. And voices were being recorded. It goes back to old wire recordings, magnetic wire, the reel-to-reel, digital analog recorders, cassettes, etc., have all captured voices that were not uttered by any person in a room. So EVP research started well back, I think even more predominantly in Europe, though there were some in the States like Sarah Estep who was doing it. Through that, they would start using white noise as audio support to give something non-detectable maybe a better chance of being detectable or recorded. And then they were told through, I guess, some of the communications, this is how the story goes, that the voices through the burgeoning electronics age would eventually start coming through the radios. And sure enough, the radios that were there for white noise audio support started having voices emerge from them. We think that what happens is a form of intermodulation. We had previously, and this is fascinating, I think this is a cool little mini lesson to include, because we had operated under a theory, and people that that are doing stuff similar to us are still operating under this theory, that it was a version of stochastic or inverse stochastic resonance that was causing the voices to become detectable where they were not otherwise so. But that type of resonance happens when a matching frequency enters the white noise, fuses with it, and then it matches at least one frequency in the white noise, and then those two get amplitude and resonate. That's what we thought. And within weeks, the last few weeks, we actually crapped on our own theory and realized that it was flawed, because in order for something to resonate with the white noise through stochastic resonance, it has to be a physical detectable signal. And these voices are not. They're not. So we think,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I have to ask you this question.
Sure.
So if you're getting voices from white noise, if I'm correct in knowing this, isn't white noise basically the empty, how would I describe this? It's like the empty void of where signals would go for any type of radio, television, or anything like that. Am I correct in that analogy?
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, white noise is essentially every frequency we can hear.
Right.
It doesn't need an RF signal. So
when you're using it for your studies with the paranormal, what exactly, like what white noise could be? I mean, when you say white noise, the first thing that comes to my mind is like turning on the TV and hearing.
Yeah.
Static.
We operate in a closed system. It's a closed system. We use white noise generators that we pipe through a laptop where we slow it down and filter it in real time.
Right.
So it's a closed system.
So it's not anything to do with again, when I think of white noise, I think of a signal that has no signal coming through. It's just empty space. And from what I remember learning when in science class when I was a kid, is that when you turn on the TV and it's just white noise, it's the signal without the signal, so to speak. Does that make sense?
There's no data within white noise. There's no data. So does that make sense with what you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to understand the best I possibly can, because what I'm understanding in my mind was, when I was younger and I learned in science class, like white noise is basically an empty signal where a signal could come through. So I was always told that white noise is the sound of outer space with no signal, so to speak. Maybe I have it the wrong way.
Well, we have these things traveling all around us all the time,
like radio waves.
Right.
And it's like when no one's broadcasting on that network, there's just nothing there.
Right. So again, isn't that like the open outer, for lack of a better term, outer space noise of nothing? Does that make any sense?
No, I think in outer space, a radio signal can propagate in outer space because it also can propagate through a vacuum. But I think the one thing that might be a category error to do is to conflate white noise with signal reception. So you can have, and this is what I was just trying to explain. We have analog generators that are creating the white noise internally, and then it's going through an interface, and that interface puts it in software that filters it and slows it down. So there's no ambient point of input from a microphone. There's no RF signal reception. So it can't receive anything from the outside. From a physics point of view with sound and how that would work, it's not able to receive anything outside of it. It is, all intents and purposes, a closed system.
So I know where you're coming from.
Vacuum.
I'm sorry. Well, I know where he's coming from as far as the white noise, and because that's where speech comes from. It's like it's the foundation of where sound comes from. So when you put what he's saying, right, with the white noise and the signal comes in, and thinking as analytic
idealism.
Thank goodness, I don't know what's wrong with me.
Me either.
Then that would work, honestly, what he's saying, because that's the intermodulation.
Right.
It would be intermodulation.
Right. That's what I was trying to explain. Yeah. Right. This goes into a metaphysical explanation to make sense of it. From a physics perspective, it's not contaminated from any RF signal or any microphone. There's no ambient input that it can receive. It's literally generating noise in real time, fusing it into one channel, filtering it, slowing it down, and then the noise floor being reduced through the filtration, and nothing is emergent unless there's something that's loud enough, which in most cases, and not always, but in a lot of cases, are the vocals that are anomalous, that shouldn't be there for a variety of reasons. We think the white noise is working to intermodulate, like a springboard or a canvas, to take something that is essentially how we work, right? When we talk, we make a mechanical sound wave that will propagate through the air. But before that, it's conception, it's mentation. We think and then we speak. So we believe, and this is what she was referring to, metaphysically, in something called analytic idealism, that reality is fundamentally mental.
Could you just give a brief, simple explanation of what metaphysics is, just so for our listeners?
That's actually great that you asked that. Yeah, because the paranormal field seems to, in a lot of cases, operate under the idea that metaphysics means spiritual woo, candles and crystals and incense, and that's not what it means. It literally means that which stands behind the physics. That's what it means, that which stands behind the physics. And this is an important distinction. Science tells us what nature and reality does. It asks questions of nature, and through experimentation, it has outcomes and makes determinations of what we will, won't, can't see. It doesn't tell us what nature or reality is. That's metaphysics. It's a philosophical argument. Will we ever pin that down? Probably not. We're monkeys on a rock for 50,000 years with higher cognitive function. I don't think it's within our wheelhouse to know everything. But
I agree with that.
Yeah. But that's the difference. And so science tells us what the behaviors to expect are. It doesn't tell us what's behaving. So what we think is happening is, now under analytic idealism, which is not something we created, it goes back through Spinoza, Schopenhauer, Jung. This goes back a while. It's a version of it that's pioneered by a gentleman named Dr. Bernardo Kastrup, under whom he has 2 PhDs. I'm in an ambassadorship program with him. So it says reality is fundamentally mental. This jives with what we know from quantum field theory and quantum physics for at least the last 50 years, that physicality does not exist in and of itself. It is the result of observation and measurement. Physical parameters don't exist prior to observation and measurement. So under idealism, physicality and those measurements and what we perceive as physical is an appearance. It's the representation of what's out there, but it's not fundamentally physical. With that, we think that like when we think and then we speak and then we make a physical sound wave, that what we're communicating with, and oftentimes people in the paranormal will finish a question and the answer is there before they even have a chance to finish talking sometimes, or immediately. That's super
I've had that
luminal.
happen.
Super luminal. That's
happen.
faster than speed of light. So that tells you right there that physics of sound can't be what's happening. It had no chance to traverse somewhere, be processed, thought out, responded to, and then back that fast, which means what we think is that we're communicating with consciousness by which we are within. And so that's what we think is happening is that a non-physical signal is being intermodulated in the same way you could take a VLF, very low frequency receiver that goes like under 150 kilohertz. They used to use them, I think, for submarines and emergency services back in the day. And it'll take, if you have a VLF converter and you connect it to a world band radio, it'll take 50 hertz that the radio can't receive, and then it'll bump it up. It'll intermodulate it up to, let's say, 1450 kilohertz, so then you can hear it at that level, but it's not coming in there. We think the white noise is working to intermodulate something that is a non-physical, non-detectable signal, and then it's making it detectable to us, starting as mentation, ending as we experience it as a sensory input.
So what you're saying, saying is that you're getting signals, for lack of a better term, a signal or a communication, if you will, from some type of entity.
Yeah, I hesitate on I'm very rigorous and specific with words, because we frame things sometimes that we lead ourselves astray, or we communicate the wrong thing. We think we're communicating with consciousness, what would be a holistic, universal, phenomenal consciousness within which we all exist. So it's not fully dissociated as each of us is, which is why we identify separately, which is why I can't read your thoughts. You can't hopefully read mine. Why I don't know what's happening.
With all due respect, that's a little deep of an answer. Let me try to get you to answer it in a little bit more simple in English. It's a little confusing, with all due respect.
Sure. Yeah.
Where are these voices coming from, and who are they? What are they?
We believe that we're talking to collective consciousness. So let's say when we die, when we pass on, we believe, right? We don't have a physical body anymore, but consciousness, that's who we are. And then we become part of the collective. We are part of everything. So we're talking to loved ones and things like that, but as a whole, they're not entities per se, because it's consciousness.
No.
So it's talking to like a whole, but that's why we get individual responses, because all that data, that information is part of the collective consciousness.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It's difficult because while I understand and appreciate where you're coming from with a more bare bones, simple explanation, the question, in order to address it even fairly, requires a certain level of depth. Otherwise, we abandon what it is we think explains it, and then we're kind of stretching for things that we don't really believe in, that don't substantiate it. Because it's that metaphysical position of idealism where we see that this stuff is plausible. When you're going to say extraordinary circumstances or situations require extraordinary explanations, that's only true if being termed extraordinary is done categorically by saying something doesn't fit into a specific ideology, right? If the metaphysics of the world, which is the worldview today, which says that there are physical things that exist in and of themselves, and that your brain creates consciousness, that's the accepted worldview. Under that, then stuff that we say or people in the paranormal claim seems extraordinary. And then for people who are into that, you have to provide some kind of a grandiose explanation. But that's because of the paradigm or the ideology doesn't allow for something that people are experiencing. So it's to trace it back, it's difficult to answer. Who are we speaking to? It's difficult.
I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't think we can never. Right. Yeah, that's fair. I don't think we can ever know. I mean, we can get names, we can get responses. Some people get very proprietary personal information, and it makes them think that they know who they're talking to.
Right.
I won't ever claim that this is definitely your Aunt Martha or your Uncle Steve or whatever, because I can't support it.
And that's what I mean about the collective consciousness, because you're not talking to an entity, to an individual, but it seems like it because they're answering you and have information that relates to what you're talking about. But it's
okay.
It's
So before I can even go into my other questions, because I've got a lot of questions for you.
Cool.
Let's start by giving the audience.
Before you ask the question, let me chime in just a little bit, Mike. I haven't had a whole lot.
All right. I guess
I just want to say a couple things. We're not like coming at you or anything like that.
No.
By all means, I have a lot.
But I got a lot of questions
of you. And
I appreciate that. Very kind of you. No, we don't think that.
I've listened to you on a lot of podcasts. I've seen a lot of your videos. You bounce off each other really well. Lourdes, you kind of bring this feminine part that is very sweet and soft. And Ron, I wish I had a quarter of your brain, I really do, but really and truly, it is a real honor to have you guys here. Now I'm going to let our host
bombard you.
We appreciate it.
Okay?
We love it. This is what we need.
If the questions are different, if they're challenging, whatever, then so be it. That's what we're here for. We don't want to be here to be fluffed up on pillows,
right?
Superficially. She is sitting on pillows.
I'm glad you said it, because I challenge these sort of things because I am a skeptic, as you may or may not have heard.
Sure.
I want to believe. I want to. I truly do. But I'm the kind of guy who needs evidence. I need facts. So I'm going to ask you questions that may sound difficult, but I'm sure you sound very intelligently. You certainly know what you're doing. Both of you are engulfed in this project that is, let's face it, it's quite deep.
Fascinating.
So let's start with the first question.
Yeah.
Would you consider yourselves paranormal investigators?
That's a good question. I mean, initially, I think there's like a progression, almost like a freshman, sophomore, junior, ghost hunter, paranormal investigator. At some point, you elevate to either researcher. Some people go to documentarian. I don't know. I think we do. We take
communicators, I think.
Transcommunicators is another term for the method. But I think because of that in the metaphysical philosophy, I think that we take an academic approach more. So I would say, I don't know, afterlife research, because it's not, it's gone far afield from just ghost hunting at this point. And a lot of the stuff that you will hear us answer, and it may go deep, some of it metaphysically, philosophically, but a lot of that in the paranormal field is very much in its own lane and very much salmon going upstream against the current, because a lot of the accepted theories in the field, I've kind of turned some of them on their head and challenged them. And funny, Mike, I've been identified on a few shows as a skeptic, and I'm not, but I'm skeptical. I know this generation has to be,
though. You have to be.
Yeah. I had to calm some people down because they're like attacking. I'm like, no. We think like you. It's just explanation.
I'm not here to attack. I'm just here to ask questions. Brian, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Brian.
You're good.
I love that part, and like I said, what you guys do is so different from anybody else. It's just like, I'm not on the level you guys are at. I consider myself an enthusiast. Okay. I'm not a professional. I've never been a cop. I don't know how to do a full-on investigation of something. I'm not a professional in that way. But what I can do is take the many vast tools that I have, okay, and try and make contact and at least see if there's something legitimate going on there. And then I can pass that knowledge on to someone that's way more advanced in what they're doing than me, and try and help people if need be. What you guys do is you're doing some breakthrough stuff that started way back when, and a lot of people have done it in a lot of different ways, but I think you kind of perfected it in a way, and it's amazing. And I'll let Myke go ahead and beat you over the head.
We appreciate it. And I mean, I would hesitate to run with, I don't think we've perfected it. I think we've done fine tuning. and it's got room for improvement, and we keep trying to better understand what it is we're doing, improve what it is we're doing. Also trying to help people.
I think what really helped was slowing down the white noise, I have to say, perhaps.
With vocal clarity, yeah.
Right, because earlier pioneers would say that the voices would come in faster than we could even hear it or speak. So from that, one time he got we believe it was a message that made it seem like it was his mom. That's the way I'm going to describe it. And so he slowed it down 50% and he sounded drunk, and the voice sounded regular speed. And from there, he got the idea of slowing down the white noise, thinking about what the pioneers had said earlier.
Right.
And I think that did make a difference in what we're getting.
Towards the method, yeah, that definitely helped improve it.
I'm sorry, Myke, go ahead.
That's quite all right. No, I'm fascinated by all of this. Let me give you a little background on what I understand.
Sure.
I've known Bryan now for almost a year, right? Bryan, we met, I think, in December of last year. And anyway, Bryan has explained to me, by the way, that's my bird in the background.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
We're animal lovers.
One of my birds. Anywho, Bryan has explained to me what he does. He's a ghost hunter. He goes to places to find or discover, if that's what you want to call it. By the way, Bryan, that is the biggest cup I've ever seen in my life. Can you make it a little bigger? I don't think
my wife got this for me, man. I was like, yeah.
Please tell me it's not filled with Mountain Dew or something, or Dr. Pepper.
You'll know in a half hour.
Water.
Anywho. So Bryan has described to me what he does and how he goes to places, and he tries to discover something on the other side. Okay. What I'm trying to understand from what you guys and your perspective on what you guys do is, if you're searching for something on the other side, the astral plane, if you will, and are you making contact? And would you consider this a ghost, a spirit, a poltergeist, a demon, whatever? Where would you take it from here with that question? What exactly is it, like? What are you looking for? And what have you seen or heard?
That's a good question. We're trying to document and have with other people as witness when we do events out of the house. Interaction.
Oh, you do this right in your house?
Oh, yeah.
The communication, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll do it here. Absolutely.
That doesn't freak you out?
No.
What? Okay. Well, before you answer the question I just asked you, based on what you said, don't you fear that you might be bringing something in to your home?
No, I think bringing something into the home sometimes is predicated on media fueled conceived notions that come in the form of horror films, sci-fi, fantasy, perhaps. We think intent has a lot to do with it. In order to do this kind of experimenting to see how, the play with the sound quality and everything else, we'd either have to rent a space, which is not in the budget, or buckle down and do it here. And then we take it out into public events and expos and such like that. So, and we would not categorically call any place haunted purely on getting anomalous voices, because we can get them anywhere. It's not relegated to a place, any specific location. So we wouldn't go to a house and go, all right, this is haunted because we got voices. You have to have much more than that.
I wanted to elaborate on what Myke says, but Myke asked, but you want to say something, Bryan?
I would assume, okay, that if we die, right, at least in my belief, right, I believe we die and our soul or whatever is around here, okay? Wouldn't they be everywhere? Wouldn't they be everywhere? Why would they just be in a haunted house?
Okay, so first off, I just want to say,
right,
with Mike's question, with the bringing it in and the demons and what Ron said with intention. Okay, so don't judge me, because I okay, so my family, okay, so I was born into espiritismo, which is a form of mediumship in the Caribbean. And
okay, and let me stop you right there. With all due respect, your last name is Gonzales. I'm assuming you have a Latina background.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So from my understanding, a lot of the Latinos are very religious people.
Right.
Was that your background or no?
Right.
And spiritual.
But very, very. But see, this is the thing, and this is where intent is very, very important, at least in my eyes. Because when I was little and I would see certain things and experienced a lot, and I saw something that terrified me. And it was if I can share just quickly, my cousin was channeling, and my mom, the whole family practiced, but my mom did not. That's another important fact. And my mom did not out of 10 kids. So anyway, my cousin is channeling, and we always went to support and do the ceremony. That's what was normal for me. And she bumped into my mom, and now my mom and her are moving in ways like my mom is moving in ways that she doesn't move, that she doesn't speak. So that terrified me. So as I got older and saw things, I would argue with them with certain practices that they would do. I did not agree. So I believe when you're doing this type of work, this type of method, that intent is important, because if you're doing this with bad intentions, or if your mindset is not in the right place, you can have an experience that appears like you brought something in, that appears that you have an attachment. That's what I truly believe myself. I'm speaking for myself. I don't know about Ron, but that's what I'm speaking for myself.
And to Bryan's point, and this is funny because every time it comes up, I may actually just kind of point it out because it'll help. This is one of the reasons.
Sorry, I have to excuse myself. I'm sorry. I got to use the bathroom.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, guys.
No, you can't do that.
Right. I know, really.
She has a big cup too, huh?
2 demerits. Yeah. So to Bryan's point, and this is one of the reasons why, and I was kind of getting into it a little in the beginning, perhaps a little too quickly, the metaphysical philosophy and what nature or reality is versus science telling us what it does, because those very beliefs are the foundation for every argument, every idea, every theory, every hypothesis we put out. And if we don't know what it is, which a lot of the people in the paranormal field probably don't, then what happens is you either end up contradicting yourself. A lot of people invoke science and then conflict with it shortly thereafter because they're trying to do it for credibility, and then they realize that they ran out of stuff. So then they go, mysticism. And too late. You can't. So that's why, if you don't know your metaphysical position, you can be operating with unexamined bias, unexamined assumptions. Even science is done by what? People. And people will have unexamined biases, unexamined assumptions. So science, methodologically, you can say it's objective or neutral, but it's being done by people who may not necessarily be, right? So when someone says that that's not logical or that's not reasonable, what's logic? Logic is a collection of axioms, and axioms are what? Beliefs that are held to be self-evident and not questioned. So you have a form of dogma, you have an ideology, and then if something doesn't fit in it, it's called scientism. It's taking what doesn't fit into this and going, well, that's got to be bullshit because it doesn't fit into this paradigm, to this view of what I think real and everything is. So the first question we always do when we lecture is tell people, before you field, do you think that's real? You believe ghosts are real? You think that stuff is real? Maybe think about what you think real or reality is, because that's your reduction base. That's from where your explanations come, and you'll contradict it if you don't know it.
All right. Now, based on what you just said, I've known Bryan, as I said, for just about a year, and I know what he does and how he goes about it. He explains to me. I mean, I don't know all the details, but he explains, well, we use this tool to determine whether or not there are some radiation fields that are being detected, and whether or not that could be an entity, for lack of a better term. Now, I can only speak for myself when I say this, but I studied the occult. I've studied magic. I've studied black magic. I've studied white magic. I've read about religions and so forth. And I did that from as far back as 2006 up until about 2012. That was my study period. All right. And I studied everything from the old grimoires and magic and witchcraft to modern day Satanism and occult related magic.
Mm-hmm.
So when I brought up before about whether or not you were nervous about bringing something into your home, the reason I brought that up is because I've been involved in ceremonies and or magical rituals, which there is a what the hell do they call it again? I forget it. The invitation to whatever spirit or entity, or for lack of a better term, a demon or whatever, an angel even, that you are conjuring into your atmosphere from the astral plane into your plane. And once that interaction is done, whatever it is you might be doing that ritual for, there's the not the banish. Oh, it's not a banishing thing. It's
closure.
To close the door, you have to go through a certain procedure. Now, do I believe all that is necessarily true? Why do I say that? I am not a religious man. I was born and raised Roman Catholic. Yacovetti. Are you Italian? Right. There you go. Malzone. Yeah, that's my real name.
I was raised Catholic too, believe it or not.
Yeah, I was born and raised Roman Catholic. Now, I stopped believing after I got my confirmation, my penance, so on and so forth. After age 13, I was already going into a different frame of mind. In fact, I've told Bryan many times, when I was in high school, first 2 years, I went to a Catholic high school in Patterson Catholic. They hated me. I was always in Catholic schools, you have to have a religion class. And I was always asking, can we talk about Lucifer? And they started telling my parents that I was worshiping the devil at age 13. So what I'm getting at is, as I went on this different path and I began to study all this stuff, it was under my belief that anything on the other side, the spirit side, the astral plane, is something that has to be brought in to our plane to either communicate with it or see it if you're lucky enough, and or get some sort of a message. It seems to me what you're doing is getting messages, but the question is, what are these messages from? What are they? Are they are either one of you religious now? I mean, I don't mean to be personal, but
no, that's okay.
Do you believe in God? Because even if you were to say to me right now, Ron, you were born and raised, and I'm just taking this just completely hypothetical. If you were to say to me, yeah, Myke, I was born and raised Roman Catholic, I was in an Italian family, and you know how Italians are, hey.
Yeah.
The religion, especially the Catholic religion, they do not approve of any of this.
Yeah.
You buy a Ouija board, they're like, oh, no. You do not play with that. So when Bryan goes on ghost hunts and tells me what he's doing, again, I'm skeptical. I'm interested, but I'm skeptical. Even with my own stuff that I've gone and to study, the occult and the black magic and the angels and blah, blah, blah. All of that stuff, I have to take it with a grain of salt. So what I'm trying to understand is what's different about what you're doing compared to what Bryan does, or somebody in a ritual conjuring something from beyond.
I'm going to say there is no difference. We're describing the same thing using different words, and the mentality that you're in is how you describe it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Very good. Yeah.
Your intentions.
Yep.
Yeah.
Once again, intentions.
Yeah, I think right. And you said the key words too before, Myke, was under your beliefs, this and that, and that's kind of what I was referring to before. Is that everything that we perceive comes with a narrative. Everything we perceive comes with a narrative that we tell ourselves. That's part of how we process and then know stuff, and it's highly influenced by what it is our biases and our beliefs are. Right. So what we do, we wouldn't consider, let's say, like a ritual, but some people might. And what Lourdes nailed it is that essentially what we're doing is almost the same thing with different labels and terms on it. The other, I think, different belief fundamentally from where we're coming from is, and we're looking at this from an analytic philosophy, metaphysical, what's called ontology, studying of beingness. Ontologically, what we think reality and everything is that we think that the one thing that is the foundation for reality, the one thing and the only thing that is pre-theoretical, which is subjectivity, consciousness. So we think that we are within a holistic universal consciousness. We are all part of that. So astral planes, alternate dimensions and stuff like that, I would argue that those are perhaps descriptions of things that are speculative, arbitrary. We're drawing arbitrary boundaries somewhere that we have no direct access to. We don't know that there's multiple planes. With idealism, one of the things that attracted us to this philosophy is that it's skeptically parsimonious, meaning it'll try to explain things without clashing with science in ways that take the fewest theoretical steps to do so. Because when you add things into a theory per scientific method, you have to then falsify, you have to then provide some kind of a grounding. When you remove stuff from a theory, the strength in that comes from parsimony. It comes from making something more efficient with fewer steps. So the stuff that someone could describe as communicating or conjuring in something from another plane, something that's crossing over from another dimension, all that stuff, we would say we exist within consciousness. And just like, and Bryan mentioned before, there's radio signals flying past our head now. We don't have to conjure them to hear them. They need to be what? Modulated. That's what the radio does. It modulates something we can't detect per our senses. Once it's modulated, we can detect it. We know that there's things outside of what our senses can tell us, infrared, infrasound. So you can extrapolate that there could be more going on outside of what our senses can tell us. So for us, that's the most simple, fewest steps necessary to explain what's going on, is that consciousness is the one thing we know. We believe that is the foundation or substrate for reality. And then within that, there's all of us and everything we experience. And it's modulated into experience, or it's something that our senses can already detect, and then we experience it that way. But it doesn't require extra dimensions. Could it be demons? Could it be angels? Could it? Sure. But these are labels.
Again,
they're labels that we
labels.
We
so
can't argue.
If you talk about good and evil, is good and evil part of collective consciousness? I would say yes, because it's in us, right? So there goes your demons and your angels. You know, there goes the
they're archetypal.
pedophile,
Those are archetypal, right?
Virgin Mary. You know,
they're orbs. They're orbs. Damn it,
they're orbs. They're orbs.
Virgin Mary just flew past. Bryan, did you want to ask something? Were you going to ask something? Because I could keep going.
Yeah, keep on going, dude. Because this stuff I got. I mean, you're rolling in a good direction right now.
All right, so let's go. Let's go to the next level here. What? Why don't you tell us, as well as the audience, some of the experiences that you've had? What have you? I guess why don't you tell us maybe one or two of your most incredible stories?
That's a good question. I know. I mean,
thank you.
That when
I pride myself on good questions.
Yeah, no, they're really good.
If it's an investigation, before you go to say you're invited to a place that's really haunted, right? When you go there, do you interview these people prior to going there, or do you just show up and do your thing, set up your device? And
if it's a public event, we don't do any interviews. And honestly, for us, I'd rather not know a lot of the information that's there, because a lot of times we'll get stuff vocally through our system that someone else will substantiate or validate that it means something, and we don't have any way to do it.
Or someone says it like, that makes sense, and they'll tell us, oh, okay. Yeah.
I'll give you a story that was kind of like a wow moment for me. And I should mention this one here is a licensed New York State court reporter, and she's not in the court. She's listening to audio. So what do you do?
Not anymore.
You do
what I do for the living, I do for the dead.
Well put.
So her hearing is fantastic. She listens to people talking over each other, different cadences, speeds, dialects, distance from the microphone. She's really good at it. So we were at an expo in New Jersey last year. We do the New Jersey Power Unity Expo every year. And some woman had heard she was hoping her son would come through. Now, she had mediums throughout the years tell her because he died 31 years ago at the age of 15, she'd never hear from him, which is very arbitrary to say. I wouldn't promise it, and I wouldn't denounce it because I wouldn't be able to do either one with certainty. But that's what she was told. So she gets his name, comes out, she hears his name, she hears drummer, he was a drummer, she hears stuff that's very irrelevant. She's very choked up. Then sometimes the voices will come through supremely clear, but not that loud. And something came through, and I saw it in her face, and I was like, "You heard something." She's like, "You heard? What did you hear?" So she goes, "I heard mention cookies." Now, to us, means nothing, and this is an important thing that what we talk about is that we always in the field we generalize the words like information. There's not one type of information. There's symbolic information. There's semantic information. Right? Like if somebody sees this and they never saw this before, it means nothing. If they know what it means, but they don't know why I'm doing it, they've got symbolic information. If they know that I just got a good health report back from her, now there's symbolic and semantic, right? So there's different layers to that. So we hear words that shouldn't be there and we identify them. She heard mention cookies, but that's it. There's no semantic value. The lady starts crying more. She says that 11 months prior, she was diagnosed with diabetes and she hasn't been able to have any snack stuff. That morning, she baked 2 trays of sugar-free cookies, and she had a Ziploc bag of them in her purse at that very moment, which we could have never known. So
why was that important to her?
That was a wow moment to me.
Because the mediums had told her that she could never speak to her son in the 30 years. So that made her feel like he's around always. See?
And she heard it.
And that's what this is about.
She heard it. We didn't lead her on with something, and we wouldn't have known that would have been anything of value to anybody.
And just to kind of get a visualization on what you're saying here, you're basically telling me you were at some location. Was it the person's house, the woman's house?
No, it was an expo where we would do sessions every hour.
So you're at an expo where there's all kinds of people around, right?
Well, we have a room.
We have a room, and we close the door for silence to do it for 30 minutes every hour.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So ultimately, you've got this room. You're doing these, could we say experiments?
Sure. Say experiments, yeah.
So a lady comes in. She wants to contact her 14-year-old or 15-year-old son who passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just something that happened where it was almost like she was channeling, or you guys were channeling as a medium, the deceased son for the mother. And was there some sort of a connection other than these cookies?
Oh, she was getting.
Well, yeah,
she was getting. That's the whole point. Okay, let's describe how the expo works. So we're in a room. And we may have like 15, 16 people there. And we're running an experiment. And people are listening and hearing. So it's not. So when I start or anyone starts hearing drummer and this, she goes, my son, she now claims it. Right. So she claims it. And that made her believe that was her son. And then I hear mention cookies. And that's when she told the story about the cookies being there.
Yeah.
So if that makes that's how it happened.
Yeah, she heard things that she identified with him. It still could have been a voice coming through commenting about her son. It doesn't necessarily delineate that it had to be him.
I think it's the intent again, because she was not the only one who got a message that day. Right. There was another young lady in that same session. I hear Jim Murphy. And she goes, my grandfather's Jim Murphy. And then we start asking questions. What color is her hair? Green. She had green hair. So that's how these things work for us in the expo.
What you're saying right now is based on that particular incident between that mother, you guys, and the beyond.
Mm-hmm.
That you connected somebody that had been deceased with the living.
That's the appearance of it. Yeah, that's what it appears to be. Yep.
Are you guys familiar at all with hypnosis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have either one of you ever studied it or tried it or been hypnotized?
I have. I had a little bit. I had a friend who was he still does it. He's a comedian who does hypnosis shows all over. So I've been to a few of them, and I participated in one of them.
And I saw him.
Quite amazing, right? I've actually studied hypnosis. Sadly, I don't have anybody to practice on. But what I'm getting at is this: when I was younger, my brother was also studying it with one of his scoutmasters. And I was there one day, and they were talking about how would I explain this? A being that was able to be contacted through hypnosis by the name of Seth. And Seth used to give people answers to, for example, I'm just going to throw this out there. This is completely hypothetical, but it's an example of what I'm trying to explain to you.
Right.
So Don, the guy who was one of the hypnosis people that I knew with my brother, he was telling me about this story where, for example, if you lost something, and Joe Schmo over here lost $50,000 in gold, and he don't know where he put it. So they put him under hypnosis, and they contacted the Seth person or entity from beyond, who came into the conversation with the hypnotized Joe Schmo, and then proceeded to tell him where the hidden treasure was. So what I'm getting at is, based on what your studies and practice are, do you think that there could be some sort of a Seth that is involved with your experiences or experiments, where you're able to connect on a regular basis? Because, as I said, with the hypnosis thing, Don was always telling me Seth is always there. You can always contact Seth through hypnosis, through a person. So I'm asking you, is there any sort of again, I'm trying to find the right words. It's not a spirit.
This is an interesting idea.
No, I know. Yeah, it's a great question. I know where
light bulb going on.
I know where he's going. It's a brilliant question.
Well, thank you.
It is. So really, I mean, these are great. These are better than most questions we'll get.
I'm sorry, that laugh makes me go like this, because he did the laugh. I was like, he should do that.
Yeah, well, that's a nice touch, right?
I'm sorry.
So to go back to before, when I said about the metaphysical philosophy and idealism, that we liked it, it's skeptically parsimonious, fewer steps. So that experience, to me, under idealism, could be explained with what's empirically knowable, right? Somebody comes back with an answer to something that they didn't seem to have beforehand. And unless I'm missing something or misunderstanding something, there's no empirical grounding for Seth other than somebody came back with information they didn't have, and then attributes it to somebody called Seth. So Seth is inferred, but not empirically grounded in something. As an idealist, I would say that the same thing would be equally plausible, if you grant that it's plausible, without the inference of anybody named Seth, through hypnosis, in the same way that folks who do meditation or psychedelics will have a more permeable or porous experience with consciousness. That they would have a greater access to things that perhaps they didn't know. And then from that, they were able to grok or attain something that they couldn't remember. Memory, and this is important, memory has never been found to be stored in the brain. We don't have little files in our head like computer things. They never found it. And there was a paper, an academic paper came out a couple years ago.
It's neurological.
They said in memory itself, the paper said scientists finally find memory in brain. And if you read it, what it said is that when somebody recalls an experience, when they metacognize, which is not just to experience, but to know that one experiences, when they metacognized and reflected on that experience, that the neural pathways mirrored the original experience. But the memory itself has never been found in the head. So when you forget, well,
that
yeah,
is absolutely amazing, isn't it?
So, and there's something called terminal lucidity, where people who have Alzheimer's will remember everything within 48 hours of passing. Like it all comes back to them.
Well,
so I think what's happening is that we all, and see, again, this is where the metaphysical thing is important. Because if you go with the worldview, bear with me here for a second. This is going somewhere. The worldview.
I want us to about the Seth when you finish.
Okay,
go ahead.
Good. Okay. The worldview that the world is physical in and of itself, and that the brain creates consciousness as a byproduct or an epiphenomenon, right? If that's the accepted view, if you go with that, right, and you made me forget where I was going.
I'm so sorry.
Right. If you go with that, then you have an issue with explaining memory, because again, it's never been found in the brain. Now, under idealism, I know what it is. If you go under that metaphysics of physicalism, that things are fundamentally physical, then the brain is supposed to be creating consciousness. And so when you forget something, which is a form of dissociation, when you forget something, it's a form of dissociation. So your mind and your brain are not the same thing. But when you go with physicalism, people think that the mind and the brain are the same. The mind is not the same thing, right? The brain, under idealism, the brain is what the mind or consciousness looks like.
Ultimately, the brain is more of the physical organ, whereas the mind is what it produces, what it does, right? I mean, that's
under physicalism, correct? And that metaphysical position is the one that we argue against.
It's the medical. You hear me? It's the physical appearance of consciousness.
The brain is what your inner consciousness looks like. Okay. From a second person perspective. The problem with the idea of the brain creating consciousness is twofold. It's something called the hard problem of consciousness, which says that there is no way to deduce, at least in principle, the qualities of experience, tasting of a strawberry, the smell of chocolate, from any physical or material arrangement. It's never been, even in principle, theorized how that's possible. The second thing is when you go with that mind and matter, that there's physical matter and then mind, and these are two separate and incommensurable things, then that explanation of the brain creating consciousness is an internal contradiction, because it says mind and matter are two separate things, and then it attempts to explain mind in terms of matter.
It doesn't make sense.
Which is a contradiction.
Yeah.
So we think that the mind or the brain is what the inner consciousness looks like from a second person perspective, and when you forget something, you're dissociated from it, and then sometimes it'll come back to you, or you may experience something and not know that you experienced something.
So I just wanted to say quickly with the Seth thing, it's pretty much down like, and you probably said it, but the descriptions, because someone could have said that was an angel that gave him that information, or demon, or the doctor or the therapist could have eliminated that completely and just went direct and
you're right. You're right. And I completely agree with that theory. That the thing is that Don, again, this was when I was, oh my God, how old was I? I think I was 11, 12, maybe even 13. And Don, as I said, he was a scoutmaster. My brother, who went on from being a scout to a scout, an Eagle Scout, which is the highest level you can get, to becoming a scoutmaster. So they were friends, and they were the kind of classical music and the whole, all the sheer signs of intelligent men doing the things that they were doing. So when they started studying hypnosis, Don specifically told me that, and I had a lot of questions at age, whatever the hell age when I was at, and Don was explaining to me, he's like, Seth was a being that described himself as Seth, said his name was Seth, and that he was from another dimension, another plane. And that, I mean, again, I'm old now. I'm almost 60, and he was telling me this before I was like 18.
So I'm going to say this. I'm sure that he saw something that absolutely he needed words to describe to you what was happening.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So I'm sure what he experienced is absolutely real and true. I'm sure of it, but he needed those words to describe it, and that's the words that he chose, and that's the way he went, and that's absolutely fine because that's how religion is and all this and how everybody does it. So yeah.
Do you find that religion is part of what you do, what you guys do? Do you think religion has anything to do with what you're doing?
It does in a belief system way. Yeah, it's influential because again, if somebody comes to the table with certain belief systems, if that's what their cognitive structure is built off of, they believe this or they don't accept that,
right,
then that's the filter through which they're going to see things, and we tell ourselves narratives with everything we perceive. So it's certainly possible. Religion, I think, is good. I think people need transcendence, which is why now that organized religion, I think the institutions screw it up, but I think religion itself offers value. It offers a transcendence that people need, which is why with the decline of religion, you have people seeking that same transcendence in a sports team, in the arms of a stranger, in the bottom of a bottle, because we need to connect to something that's larger than ourselves. So I don't think religion is fundamentally bad at all. I think it's very valuable.
It has the
spirituality also. The worst thing to happen to spirituality is the word spirituality, because it makes people think it's a fundamental category outside of reality, and it's not.
Religion is very important because, see, I have a Catholic. Okay, I was communion. I wanted to do my communion. I was freaking excited. I loved it. I asked questions, right? Until I found out that I couldn't move forward until I confessed to a priest.
Penance.
Now I have a problem. Now I'm like 12, 10, 12, I don't know. And I was like, why? And my mother said, because you have to. Why? I couldn't understand why I had to have a middleman. And I had to prove a point. All my communion pictures, I'm like this, with a dead serious face. I am not smiling because I was very upset about it.
And did you have to, did you do the penance? Did you confess?
I did do it, but I didn't tell him everything.
Yeah, what do you say? It's like, oh, I swore 25 times.
Yeah, I mean, like, come on,
I didn't eat my dinner.
I was like, you know what I did? I did my penance at home directly, the way I thought it should be. Right. That's the way I did it.
I understand.
I want to speak to the head honcho.
Religion is very important, and we are all describing the same thing, just using the different words. But it is very important, and the institutions are the ones that mess it up because they put their man-made rules on top of it, and that's the problem. But religion is very important. At least, that's the way I see it. I mean, if you call it religion, if you call it spirituality, to me, it's the same thing. Right? We're describing the words, right? To me, it's the same thing.
Yeah. Bryan, I'm going to need you to take over. I got to grab some more water, buddy. I'll be right back.
No problem, man.
Can you get them in the conversation, please?
Myke, you wouldn't need to grab more water if you had one of those gigantic Costco-sized barrels.
You just drink it all and then you pee into it.
I want to see a bird go into that bird
house. I'll be right back. Okay, give me like 1 minute. I'll be right back.
No worries.
Go for it, Bryan.
I'm very curious. I kind of elaborated on this a little bit earlier, but have you ever been invited to go, people in a home having a problem with something they think it's haunted at their house or anything like that?
Not directly by homeowners. What has happened before, we don't have a lot of residential experience, but we've been called in by other investigators who do residentials, who do a preliminary investigation. They interview them. They ask all the screening questions and stuff. And then they bring us in sometimes if they think they know what's going on, or if somebody thinks it's a relative or whatever it is, and they want to see if we get vocals that link up or support anything that they had conceived before we got there, none of which they share with us ahead of time. So I think that's pretty much the extent of it.
Yeah, we haven't done one in a while. But on occasion, rare now, every once in a while, once they've done their little investigation, if they want a little extra and they feel like, we can add some value to it, they'll
if somebody needs like help, if they're having activity and they don't want it, I wouldn't say that we're the front lines to call, because we can get voices, but that's, if you don't want them there, you don't want that either.
That's fair. You guys know the Bandoffs from Bearfort.
We love the Bandoffs.
Robert and Sandra Bandoff are fantastic investigators. We work with them any opportunity we can. they do. You talk about protocol, talk about rigor and doing something very strict and controlled. If it's possible to do it at a controlled level, they're doing it.
Much love and respect for the Vandals. Yep.
Yeah, they're very good at what they do.
If you watch,
they've always been very open to questions for me, because I'll be like, man, I don't know how to approach this. I mean, what do you think? You know, and I've seen you guys work together a little bit, at least photos of it and stuff, and so I really admired that.
They live like 45 minutes or an hour from us, maybe. Yeah, they're not too far from us. So when we get to do, like I said, any chance we get to work with them or spend time with them, we try to. They're really cool to work with, and that's who you are in this field means more than how good your evidence is, because you spend a lot of time with people.
I mean, we've known them for 9 years, I think.
Right. Integrity and character go a long way with me compared to the quality of one's evidence.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and it's tough to control those things sometimes. You know, you do the best you can, but like you guys were saying, you can't always be in a soundproof room. You know what I mean? And there's going to be anomalies sometimes. It's just, but yeah, definitely trying to take every single measure is important, but sometimes it's just impossible, you know?
Yeah. And that's one of the things that's important about that too. And this is part of the field, I think, is in this phase now when they're worshiping the neo-priesthood of science and trying to invoke it for everything to have a grab at credibility or validity. But one of the things I think that happens with that is, like, we assume per science that to vet something, and it's done for the right reasons, right? To control something, you take it, you put it into a laboratory, you control the environment, you control everything that's happening, everything's sterile, clean, you know, no noise, contaminant, whatever the experiment is. So I understand the purpose and the value in that. And it's not that I'm missing that. But every time we take something that's done out in the field, like what we do, and we put it into a lab to try to vet it and authenticate it, we are doing, and most of the time, really unknowingly, biasing the experiment, because it assumes that we know everything that is facilitating the experience, and that everything that is working from a microscopic to a macroscopic level. It's starting small and working big. So everything that's involved will fit into the laboratory. We're making that unexamined assumption. We don't know all the mechanics of what happens sometimes in these, whether it's poltergeists or hauntings or whatever it is. We don't know all the things that go into it. And we're making an assumption. And then by putting it into a lab to control it, we're doing that, and we're biasing the experiment, because we don't even know if we're removing things from the equation that are part of what causes it to happen within nature. We don't even know exactly everything that's behind it mechanistically or what's facilitating what's going on. So we're making that unbiased, or we're making that bias of the experiment unknowingly.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's why, you know, because we have these experiences, we know that we're having them, and then when we try to explain them, we're trying to fit it into physics, the science of physics, and it's really an observational science.
Yeah,
like zoology, like, you know.
Right. What we do is it's the work is observational science, right? Astronomy, sociology, anthropology, zoology. You can't take meerkats and put them in a room in a laboratory and then study anthropologically what it is they do, or, you know, their behaviors and their habits. You can't take an untouched tribe from some remote part of the world and put them on a couch in a Holiday Inn and then study their behavior. Right? Not that we've tried, we've considered it, but the room rate's not quite right.
And if you can accept the paranormal as an observational science, then you
have to throw out astronomy, sociology, zoology, right? You're not bringing Saturn into a lab. You can't induce black holes, right? So there are some things that we study.
Yeah.
He may be able
I believe
to.
him. Yeah, he did occult stuff. He might have. So that's what we're saying, and it's very trendy now. To everybody's invoking science for credibility, and I think science is not the only word. It's certainly not the last word. It's important. It's a tool in our toolbox.
Very important.
Theology, spirituality, philosophy, metaphysics, science, different versions of types of science, all very important. It's not the only tool. You could always hammer in a nail with the butt end of a screwdriver, but wouldn't it be better to use the hammer? right? So it's not the only tool that we have. And we do make unexamined assumptions by making science the last word. In the age of tech and toys, is it the best pathway? Sure. But in an age of insightfulness or enlightenment, right? No, then I would argue it's not. What I think we miss, again, because I think this is a credibility and validity grab to invoke science. What we miss is that what gives any methodology, any epistemology, any means of gathering knowledge or wisdom, what gives it its strength are its limitations, are its boundaries. What science can't speak to, what science can't address, those boundaries are where its strength comes from. Because if you are operating or commercing outside of those boundaries, you're not doing science. But we want to put everything under science because we're looking for credibility in this field. And I don't think that's where the fix is. I think the fix is, and again, I said I keep bringing it up, is the metaphysical position, what reality fundamentally is, and how we support that from the foundation up to explain these phenomena. A lot of these things that we believe are no longer implausible and quote unquote irrational if your metaphysical view is something like what we say with under idealism. I'm not saying we've proven anything or we know anything. But science, by the way, doesn't prove. Math proves. Science leans into what's most probable based on all known possibilities or factors.
I have to interrupt you right there, if I may. You just made a comment about math being the ultimate in proving things, correct?
Well, for the most part, yeah. But if you go by Gödel's theorems of incompleteness, then math falls apart when it's self-referential. But otherwise...
Well, I'm not sure what that means, but I wanted to bring up a very interesting topic of something that I saw not too long ago. A teacher was coming up with the theory that she said, well, 2 + 2 = 4. But how do we know that? That was her whole thing. She was like, it could be 2 + 2 = 5. And I'm saying, no, it doesn't. 2 + 2 is 4. Math doesn't lie. I sincerely believe it is a universal thing that cannot be, you can make mistakes with it, but if you've got the proper formula and you've got the proper, the background theory on what you're trying to achieve mathematically, math is not going to lie. So when I heard that woman say what she said, I'm like, this is a teacher? You got to be kidding.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
because
it's not like this. And she was like a grammar school teacher, not a college or university. No, this was
a big difference.
Third grade.
That's a horrible thing. Okay, so maybe this is what she's trying to do, but I don't know. This is just me trying to be kind. But let's just say this. Let's just say it's math.
We're not kind on the show.
Let's just say.
Sorry to ruin it. Go ahead with your kindness.
Let's just say math is universal, just like you say. It's fundamental as far as a tool is concerned. And we have aliens, so they must have discovered math the same way we did, right? And maybe for them, and I'm going to use her word, maybe for them 2 + 2 = 5 because of the words that they're describing is that but the math will still be at the end the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
because the structure is there.
The only culture, sorry, I got a mouthful. The only culture that really had an issue with math were the Romans, and they had a problem with it because their numbers were so long, like the Roman numerals. So they had to eventually a new form of laying out the problems and the equations had to be shortened. So if you have the number 4, instead of doing a V or a 1 and a V to symbol 4, you just have the normal way, which is 4. But it's brought down to 1 digit per se. Whereas the Romans, they had it like, if you look at the when they would put the years on any movie, copyright number XXMM, XCM, XXX.
Yeah.
That it was too hard to do problems or work on mathematical problems with the Romans.
Yeah.
They understood math. Their words were too long. So that was the only problem with a culture that had issues with mathematics.
Yeah.
So
But it looks
nevertheless,
so freaking cool. It looks
I
so
know.
cool.
I love
It's
using
the
Roman
symbols.
numerals.
He gave me. It's
That's
the
what I
symbols.
Thought. That's where I
It's
thought
the-
you were going. Yeah.
Right, because I use two. I know they won't speak
Yeah.
English. I know that part, but it's symbols. That's right, because those are symbols. 2 and 2 is 4. So the math will always come out. If it's universal, it's always going to be the same math. It's just that the symbols may be different, and
Right.
perhaps that's what the teacher was trying to do. I don't know,
Right.
but
Right. And it's above that age grade. But yeah, and that's where I thought she was going. That 4 and 5 are just descriptions of a total. It's not that 4 does not have any ontological or fundamental existence. Like, you can't hand me 4. You can't hand me 4 pounds. You can't hand me 4 kilohertz. Right? Numbers are all descriptions of something, and when it's context wise, like if it's 4 pounds or 400 pounds, then that sets an expectation for the experience that one's going to have based on the convention that we give the numbers, right? Like, money is just paper with pictures on it. It only has value because it's a social convention that we say has value. But fundamentally, if we were in an apocalyptic world, having paper with a president's picture on it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but basically it's a note. It's a note. I mean, it used to be so that if you had $1, $10, $5, $20, whatever, it was backed up by gold.
Right.
That note was I don't know, it was a note. It was a legitimate note that indicated this piece of paper indicates $1 in gold, however much it was back.
And why does the gold have value?
Because it's really cool.
there you go.
I love the honesty. For the same reason, it's a social convention. It's something that we have given importance to. If there were 3 people left on Earth and your survival was on the line, and you needed something that was salient to persist, to survive, and somebody had a bar of gold and someone else had a Big Mac that they found from the last McDonald's that existed on the planet, you better believe that Big Mac, the golden arches are going over the gold any day, because you can't eat the gold. Right, so the value is part of a social convention. Yeah. So the numbers are the same thing. Like, 4 is significant. 2 + 2 is 4 because we've given values to bop 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 bop. So it's value that's been assigned to it, but it's not fundamental to what it is.
Because if you really, what is
math?
money?
Math is based on that.
I didn't mean to drive us off the road here on the path we're on, but I have to bring it up only because I heard that woman, that teacher. Again, a teacher. Say,
I know.
Does it equal 4? Yes, it does.
Yeah, don't do that to our children.
Yeah, anywho, that's any old who. So if we can get back on, I have a couple more questions for you, Bryan. Am I interrupting you? Did you have a question?
No. Finish your questions. Then I got a quick couple of things to ask them, and then I think we can wrap it up.
We're good. We're here as long as you need us, so don't worry about it.
All right. So. Maybe you said that at the beginning. I don't remember. Who came up with this method that you're using, and how long have you been doing this for?
So the method that we call the digital seance.
I like that.
Yeah, we've operated under different names, but this seemed to be at least somewhat descriptive, so people knew what they were getting into. And because we would do these sessions at events. And like during the session, people were popping soda cans and ripping open bags of Cheetos, and they're going, "I'm not hearing voices." You think? How about if we put gluttony on the side for just a few minutes and listen to the beyond? So,
were these students of yours or
no?
Just at a public event.
At a public event where they provide food and drinks and stuff. We were set up in a common area, so I decided that I wanted to have the focus of attention. Of intent and all that stuff that you see in those old seances when people were all like dialed in. Right. So that's where the naming convention. Yep, that's where the naming convention came from. So direct radio voice, which I mentioned earlier, which was just using a vacant shortwave or medium wave channel, just the white noise, no sweeping, no going over radio stations, no lights, no spring reverb. That's the method we brought back, direct radio voice or DRV, in 2019. We interact with a gentleman named Keith Clark out of Florida, has a company or a thing called Paranormal with a V, paranormal.com, and he was using software for filtration of sound and for images and sound in the white noise. And so he introduced us to it. And
when was this? When was this?
We started in 2019. We probably crossed paths with Keith on that, maybe 2020.
2020.
So relatively not too long ago, really.
Yes.
No.
Yeah. And so we worked on different renditions of it with him. And then we kind of went back to just the radio, but something about software filtration in real time was kind of like tugging on our heartstrings a little bit. So we went back to it. And then we started really diving into it. We were heterodyning frequencies, right?
Yep. And then we went to a mine when we were doing direct radio voice. And we went to the mine. We went deep inside the mine.
A zinc mine in New Jersey.
A zinc mine where there's no radio. Sterling Mine.
Yes, I know where that's at. I want to go to that.
Cool, yeah. New Jersey Paranormal. Yep, they do that.
Okay.
So actually, John and Chris invited us to go, and we went, and they took us deep inside the mine where there's a spring, no radio frequencies whatsoever, nothing, and we got voices. And that's when we realized that we didn't need the radio. What we needed was a white noise generator.
We didn't need RF signal at all.
Live white noise generator.
I need to ask, and I don't want to go get off the conversation, but you said you were in a mine, a zinc mine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you heard voices.
Yeah.
What were they saying?
Well, I'm going to say this because I think intent is big. It was April 15th. My birthday was April 14th.
Happy birthday.
And thank you. And I love Johnny Zaffis. Like, I really love him. Like, when I first, he feels like an uncle to me. I don't know if you know who he is, Johnny Zaffis. Johnny Zaffis.
The godfather of the paranormal.
The godfather.
Okay, I think Mr. Bryan might have told me a couple of times about that guy. Maybe I don't remember, but
all right,
nice man.
So he has a habit of just appearing, popping, boop, he pops up. So I was hoping, since it was my birthday, that the man would show up and whatever. He's busy. I was hoping because I love him. So, but he didn't. So we're down there and we had other words, but the one that I loved was, we're here, and then we hear Johnny Zaffis. It just says it. Or was it Johnny Zaffis or was it John Zaffis? John Zaffis.
John Zaffis. Yeah.
John's clear. When I tell you it was clear. And we were getting like curse words.
Oh, that's important,
Yeah.
The curse words were the Tommy knockers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that's a geological Faraday cage, right?
I'm sorry.
No signal down there.
And that's what I mean about intention, because I really wanted the man there. And why the heck would we get Johnny Zaffis? It would only make me think it's because I really wanted him there. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Your intention.
If I may, the reason I brought that question up and I asked you that based on you guys telling me you were in a mine of all places. Before I go any further, how far down in that mine were you?
We went pretty far down. We were at least
a mile. We went.
We had to walk. Yeah, we had to walk like around. Like there was water dripping on it. Pulling our equipment with a wagon.
Here's what I'm getting at. You walked into a mine. You walked into the earth.
Yeah.
And you got curse words.
Yeah.
So I'm asking, what on earth is the connection? I mean, were you expecting to get voices from people that maybe worked in that zinc mine?
Oh yeah, and we did we get a couple?
I mean, we may have. I mean, that would have been blue collar people who probably wouldn't have been foreign to swearing.
There's a pothole in here. There was a couple of they probably did a lot of swearing.
Yeah,
they probably did.
At the time, we were still using a shortwave radio for the white noise, not the analog generators, and that's how we realized we didn't need RF signal. Because you couldn't get any. Matter of fact, Bryan, Robert and Sandra Bandoff were with us that day, and he tried a few experiments with his Spirit Box SB7, which is sweeping the radio, and he couldn't get anything to happen because there's no signal, cell or otherwise. When you go in there, actually, when you even barely go in there, the signal starts dying out.
Yep.
When you get just down the tunnel, let alone like any descent, that's where cell phones and radios and their signals go to die.
Like I would say, like 2 blocks in, maybe 2 blocks in, 2 small blocks, and you're already losing signal.
Yeah,
you're
it's a geological Faraday cage. You get nothing.
So again, based on what you just said, if you had been using a cell phone or something that was getting white noise from outside, you couldn't get that reception. You're using white noise that you're creating on your equipment. So it has nothing to do with the outer space.
I wish I could.
White noise.
Right, that's correct. And so what we learned from that was we always try to vet what we do for authenticity as much as we can. There are cynicisms that are lodged against a lot of different things in the paranormal, and a lot of them are very justifiable. And so we tried to unpack it and see if we could address it. And the two main ones that spirit communication stuff gets is that the first one is you're getting, I'll show them something. You're getting radio bleed through. You're getting voices from the radio because you're using a radio, or especially the ghost boxes are sweeping through broadcasts. So the voices are from a radio. Now, I wouldn't accept that argument if, as I've done on a lot of events, if I hold up my glasses and say, what's on my hand? And a voice says glasses, even with a radio, unless the DJ is clairvoyant, that seems pretty implausible to be coming over a broadcast. But any misinterpretation, pareidolia, you're hearing what you want to hear because there's vocal fragments from the sweep. So even though we weren't sweeping, when we realized we didn't need a radio, we took that off the table because that's one piece of cynical, low-hanging fruit gone.
And why was it gone? Was it gone because of cynical people being I'm having a brain fart.
I had one before. Don't worry.
Was it because people were being cynical about it?
No, it was. I mean, it was because we knew what the criticisms against the spirit communication and radios were.
Paranormal investigators. Remember, we know it was out there.
So once we realized we didn't need the radio to do this method, we removed it and we sourced the white noise from one of these things, which is an analog generator that makes it in here. So
what is that? What is that?
It's an analog white noise generator that. Yeah, it's an analog white noise signal generator.
And that is a device that you have purchased that has nothing to do with ghost hunting or paranormal
That's
activity.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
It's very important to know. And I didn't hope I didn't interrupt you because I do have something else to ask you. Now and I say this with all due respect to my co-host Bryan, who I love, and he does great work for this show. What Bryan does, okay, as a ghost hunter and the devices that he used. And I'm not trying to make any static here, but what he uses, do you have an issue with anything that he uses to locate or find the things that he's looking for? Because I know he uses the radiation thing. Do you use a ghost?
Dude, if someone says a tin can with the wire hanging out of it will send me messages, I'll try it, dude. I'll try anything.
Yeah. No,
I don't when it comes to that stuff.
We're hesitant on phone applications because there's a lot of things under the hood that are not knowable or controllable. But as far as like the equipment goes, I think what's important is to know what it does, right? If something detects electromagnetic fields, or if it creates a field and then something breaks a field and then the lights and sounds go off, any detectors or sensors and stuff like that, the thing to know is that none of these things detect quote unquote ghosts. Because again, what is a ghost? It's a label we give something for the purposes of being able to refer to it in conversation. There's not something that it fundamentally exists that is a ghost. It's an experience that somebody has, whether they see something or feel something, and then we call it a ghost. A lot of times what the devices do is they detect the vestiges. They detect the effect of something, right? If there is an intelligent spirit energy around us, it may impact the electromagnetic field. It may impact the static electrical field. Like it may have an impact on the environment. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're measuring or detecting a ghost. And this stands up even in everything else. Like when you, like lightning is not an atmospheric disturbance. It's what atmospheric disturbance looks like from a second person perspective. Fire is not combustion. It's what combustion looks like. And there are forms of combustion that have no visual element like fire. So one of the things that's very important is that we often will conflate the appearance with the thing that the description with the thing described, right? So one thing is the description of it or the appearance of it, and the other thing is the thing represented in and of itself. So those are it's often two different things. So I think it's picking up effects, perhaps, that something we call paranormal or spiritual may be leaving behind, or that's detectable around us sensory wise, but not necessarily the thing itself.
I mean, a lot of those, or at least the ones that I started off with, weren't meant for paranormal investigations, right? The K2, the REM pod, things like that. And when these things go off, it's detecting a change in the environment. That's what it's doing, right? So now that doesn't mean right away that that's some communication. People tend to, once you get that, if you can get it to behave, and what I mean by that is ask a question on demand, and you see that it beeps. If you give it a yes for one beep for yes and two for no, and you ask a question and it's okay, maybe now you got something there. But the problem is that when they see all these blinky lines, guys, it detected a change in the environment. Now you got to go further. That doesn't mean that it's a ghost. That's the problem.
That's a very, very good point. That's another thing I think that our field is kind of guilty of, is that we automatically go to causation from a correlation, right? As soon as every time this happens, that happens. So therefore, ghosts are draining our batteries because something moved or somebody recorded a voice and then the battery went dead. We jump to that right away. Causation and correlation, not necessarily the same thing, right? Every time you see a fire, you can always correlate a fire truck and two firemen or some firemen. That doesn't mean to say that they're the cause of the fire. There was a philosopher named I'm drawing a blank on his name for a moment now. And basically what he said, he was explaining like how if all you had to view was a slit like a fence, right? It'll come to me. I know his name really well. I can't think of it. All you could see through was a slit in the fence to see on the other side. And then you see a cat walk by and you see the head. And then a couple seconds later, you see the tail. And then the other way, you see the head. And then again, the tail. And it happens a couple more times. What we would deduce based on how we jump to that stuff in the paranormal field is that the head causes the tail. That it's not part of the same phenomena, because every time we see one, the other one happens. We have no reason to think that they're draining our batteries for energy, especially if people go, well, spirits are pure energy. They're disembodied energy. Why would disembodied energy need to drain a 9-volt battery in some kind of detector?
Right.
And how would that even happen?
I've always had an issue with the device that is used. I think it's called the radio scanner.
The ghost box?
The ghost box. And I've always had a problem with that because it goes beep, bop, beep, beep, bop, beep, bop, beep, bop, bop. And it can go for a while. And meanwhile, it's just kind of, it seems to me that it's flipping through stations. And I'm not disrespecting anybody who uses them. I'm just saying I've always had a problem with them because I felt like, well, it could really end up meaning whatever words that you're hearing for wherever they came from. You could basically make it be anything you want it to be. I mean, that's just me.
No, it's called pareidolia. You could hear things that are not actually words that are coming from sounds.
That can happen, and it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people need to use discernment.
Let me be a little more specific. What I'm trying to say here is in those ghost box, that's what it's called, right? Those ghost box. It's basically, to me, it sounds like it's going through stations.
It is.
And it's choosing and picking certain phrases, one words, sounds, whatever it may be, and then it comes through that ghost box into whoever's doing the investigation. And in the mind will hear what it wants to hear, and it could associate it with whatever topic might be at hand at the time. So again, it's just one issue. I've never liked those things. I don't like them.
The ghost boxes, again, you got to use your discernment. When we use, because we have quite a few. When I heard voices, me personally, I never heard it within the suite. I heard it where it replaced the whole thing, or it was very low that I can still hear the sweep, which is what something that Ron said in the beginning. We believe they work, but they're using the white noise within the sweep. Now, when you listen to the sweep and you pick up those phrases that you're saying, yes, people would then, if they have a mindset thinking a certain way, I can see how pareidolia can, you know, have a play and make you go a certain way. But that's why I always paid attention to those voices, because I didn't like, I could tell that that was radio at times, and people would think that, and I'm like, no, I recognize that song, right?
Yeah.
So
you can get radio bleed through. What you're suggesting, Myke, is not wrong. It can happen based on the right, based on the sweep speed. That can happen. If something comes through supremely clear, and then what we always use to vet what we got was timing and relevance, right? If I held up my glasses and I got that word even out of a ghost box, the odds of that coming through on a radio station at the time I'm asking for that very specific thing is astronomical. Now, if it's and people go, oh, it said it, you know, then it's either wishful thinking, or it could certainly be hearing what you want to hear.
That's the phrase I was looking for, wishful thinking.
Yeah, no, and you're not wrong. That is a problem. That was one of the things why we were glad to get rid of the radio with what we do, because we no longer have that factor, because there's no data in the white noise.
Right.
It's being created live.
So when you hear a voice, like sometimes we get super clear voices, and other times they're not as clear. So let's say if I hear Rip and Ryan heard Tip, that doesn't mean that that's not a voice, because there's no data in white noise. It's just that we're mishearing, and we do it to each other all the time.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird double standard that happens in science too. When you have a system that's considered random, right? Like white noise is considered random, based on, again, the metaphysical belief, right? The ideology you're operating under. If something is discovered within, like a pattern is discerned in something random in science, if it fits within the paradigm, it's a discovery. If it's something outside of that, like paranormal, then it's wishful thinking, then it's pareidolia, then it's a miscalculation of a fallibility in hearing. So that's a double-edged sword, which gets played either way based on the ideology that somebody's starting, what their foundation is, right? The other thing that's important to, and we address this with this method, was, as the second criticism, is the whole discerning patterns in white noise. I don't think that if we discern patterns in the white noise, that's a statement of debunkery. I think that's an appeal to our intellect. That's how we communicate. When we hear words syntactically, contextually, referentially, that we understand in the language that we know, that's how we communicate. We don't ever hear the cat go meow, 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 and go, oh, he wants to go down the street and get some more treats, right? So we're identifying language that we know. And in science, and certainly in the paranormal, random is an empty drawer. It's what we say when at the moment it is not plausible or even possible to model or calculate everything that is a factor in what's going on. So we say it's random. What it actually is not fundamentally random. It's charged ion particles from the sun, electromagnetic fields, quantum. It could be a variety of things. So what it is it's computationally irreducible, which means at the moment it can't be calculated, but we say random, and then now you take this random status that it gets and you plug it into the paradigm, which is the accepted worldview, which is that things are physical in and of themselves and your brain creates consciousness. And now all of a sudden you have this ridiculous caca story that doesn't hold up. And caca, by the way, Spanish for
caca.
Right. We translate.
Let me show an example of what we were just talking about real quick, okay?
Yes, please.
So this was me. I'm in a cemetery, and I've got an SB7, all right, with a speaker, and I've got a digital recorder, right on top of it. I'm just recording me reading names of gravestones, okay? Listen to it one more time.
Yeah, that brings them back.
I remember this.
I hear it. I definitely hear the Bryan and what sounds. If it's, I hear the last name, but I hear Bryan.
That spirit box was going in reverse. It was not going forward. I always, when I use my spirit box, I always go in reverse.
So what you can do to validate, if you wanted to, is you can take what you thought you heard, put it in a spectrograph and audio software, and then you could speak the same words and then look at the spectral readout. And if it looks the same, then chances are that those are the words that you heard.
Wow.
You could voice print it to try to match it. So that's one way you could yeah, and that's an example. I think the boxes work, but I think
he got something.
Yeah, the boxes, I think they work, but I think there's a brevity or shortness to the message based on the fact that it's sweeping. And if the white noise is how we're becoming able to detect the sounds, or they become sounds, then every time it hits a station during the sweep, they're not availed the white noise. So I think that.
But you notice that I'm so sorry.
Go ahead. No, you're good.
But you notice how the stopped when it came through, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Replacing the sweep.
Yeah.
Well, all that aside,
what they do is completely different than what I do. And
I know that's why I asked, because I wanted to know the difference of their methods compared to yours. And certainly not trying to make any static between you if they don't like something or you don't like something. I'm just trying to understand the connection, if at all, between the two different methods of making the attempt to contact something otherly.
Yeah, what the connection is, once upon a time when people in Europe, and I guess a little bit in the States, were recording voices out of thin air called EVP, which initially they were actually called Raudove voices, named after a gentleman named Konstantin Raudove, who for a period of time was a student of Carl Jung, who was an idealist, which again brings us back to what we were talking about before. So it started out with EVP work, and then they used the white noise from the radio for audio support, and then the voices were coming out of it, and then a gentleman named Friedrich Jurgensen pioneered what has become direct radio voice. All of the early European pioneers have since passed on, except for one. Dr. Annabella Cardoso, who still lives in Spain, she actually mentored me into this. I had an hour phone conversation with her last week. We still talk.
That's week, wasn't it? Like 2 days ago?
Well, no, it was the end of last week. It was like Thursday or Friday.
Okay.
So what happened is then direct radio voice is born, where voices are coming out of the radios, but they're not sweeping, they're not touching broadcast. It's just an empty static station that has no radio broadcast coming over, which you can vet through FCC. You can make sure that there isn't any kind of shortwave or CB or anything like it's an inaccessible channel, right? So that's what they did. Now, flash forward, in the States, a guy named Frank Sumption makes the first sweeping box in an attempt to communicate with aliens, not ghosts. Oh. And it's called the Frank's box by Frank Sumption. He made, I don't know, 100 and something, 200 something of them, a limited amount of them.
Yeah.
That catches on shortly before or around the time frame that paranormal stuff becomes more mainstream through TV. So now guess what? There's your Q-tip, right? Spirit boxes and ghost boxes sweeping through broadcast for communicating with ghosts and whatever else, angels, demons, and the like, becomes the standard, because that's what was being done on TV here, because Frank Sumption started it. Now, this is probably a very unpopular opinion, but I say it all the time. I don't think the sweeping ghost box and the Frank's box was a progression of spirit communication, that it existed before that, because progress implies a topological building upon off of, and it's not. It's a divergence. It's taking something that was there and then it's remodeling it, reshaping it. So now it's going to go through broadcast, not just use a radio. It's going to sweep through and it's going to touch broadcast stations, which brought in a level of suspicion and the wishful thinking and everything else you talked about, because it's hitting vocals, right? The anomaly you're looking for is voice, and it's there. It's like going to the beach and dropping coins, coming back an hour later with a metal detector going, look what I found.
In defense to Frank, though, he was trying to reach aliens, so it made sense.
I did say that.
Yeah, I know, but it made sense for him to use the radio,
right?
But then it became something else. It turned into something.
And again,
else.
I don't think it doesn't work, but that's what happened.
I think what my biggest issue is when it comes to the contacting of otherly things, whatever you want to call them. I have a problem with electronical devices. Not because they hate me, but because I think, especially in this day and age that we live in, if they're going to start selling ghost boxes that can allegedly help a ghost hunter or a paranormal investigator to connect to the other side, I can almost picture them putting in some sort of an AI into these things to make them more believable and to connect phrases and words as it goes through, that it would make something more believable. And that's what I have a problem with the electronics for. Now, you could say, well, Myke, did you ever believe in mediums and people who can talk to the dead or whoever from their mind, or by the flip of a card, or by the moving of a pamphlet on a Ouija board? There's something, to me, there's something about old school ritualistic attempts at reaching the other side, whether it's the dead or demons and angels or whatever. Whereas electronical equipment, maybe the radiation detector, that might be something, but I have a real issue with the ghost box. In fact, Bryan, I think Bryan showed me a new gadget that he got, which was with the stick figures.
Oh, the SLS or XLS camera?
I have both.
You have them, right? See, again, I have an issue with that because I almost feel like it could be portraying something that would just be satisfactory to what we want it to be. Now, I'm not saying that what Bryan does is not credible. He's a professional in that. I don't know. I'm just saying from my point of view.
So the way I use them, is I will bring in a medium cold, blindfolded. They don't know where they're at. Bring them into the house, and whatever they capture, whatever they tell me they see, I try and use both the XLS and the SLS to try and validate what they tell me they saw. And I've actually had some success at it, believe it or not.
I didn't know that.
A few times, actually. Yeah.
Well, good.
So, but it's just so what I try and do is validation. If I've got, a reading with 1 meter, I try and have 2 or 3, to see if, I'm getting the same reading on all the meters, right? That's how I work. So.
And that's a good way to work. See, with me, as far as you were talking about like mediums and going to, for the things that you were describing before, I wouldn't go to someone for things like that unless I trusted that person. So, right. So the same thing for me for ghost boxes. We personally know the folks that build these ghost boxes and we trust them. And we believe in them. So that is important.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're absolutely right what you just said. You don't know. If you don't know the person, you don't know what they're putting in, blah, blah, blah. That's true. That's all true. But there are some good true ghost box builders out there, honest ghost box builders out there doing the right thing.
Yeah, I think the influence of trusting somebody with the ghost box is not as critical as it is, let's say, for like a mobile app. Because if the ghost box is built the way they're supposed to be built.
Steve Huff. Oop. Sorry.
he's not an app. Well, he has an app.
I know,
too.
But
he has an app too, right? Well, he doesn't build ghost boxes.
No, but people think that it is.
He made a portal device, and this is another thing about knowing what your equipment does. The portal devices that people have with the guitar pedals and stuff, that is doing something to augment the sound. It's not facilitating contact. It's the little $15 radio that's connected to it that's supposedly facilitating something. Not the $1,500 speaker with the guitar pedal and more lights than a Broadway show. That's not the facilitator.
And they pay like
crystals.
Right, and the crystals and the barbed wire.
$5,000. That little radio is like this, dude. Right. And it's $5,000. The radio is like this. Yeah,
Myke, your skepticism with the boxes is healthy. I think that's important. Because people go in automatically believing in and buying into everything, and they don't even necessarily know how they work sometimes.
That's my point. You have to know what the machinery is that you purchased, how it operates, how it breaks down, and what its function is used for. That's my thing. You've got to know. You can't just buy an object that says, I will connect you to, space aliens. No, you need to know what is it that they're using to attempt to make these connections. Again, and so thank you for appreciating my skepticism on these devices. And as I said, I tend to like go old school. Like, if you're going to connect with somebody, if you want to be a medium, you got to be a real good medium, and you got to know that this person's not a fake, not a carnival fraud. So that's where I come from. And maybe I'm just showing my age, but with the new stuff that they've got, finding, looking, searching for ghosts and paranormal activity, I'm very skeptical of. So, and you just explained why.
No, you should be. Well, one of the reasons I think that some people have more comfort with old school stuff is because it's not easy to tamper with, right? Digital photography, you can tamper with. Old photos, you can't touch a negative without leaving some kind of evidence that it was tampered with.
Right.
So when we make technological steps forward, we take progressional steps back, because with those progressions come more suspicions and more skepticism because of the things that they can do. The AI stuff and the AI stuff in the app market, I think, is a veritable shit show, because
and wait till it starts taking over and killing all of us.
Yeah, well,
it's funny. I have a little pet peeve because people say a skeptic, but honestly, I feel like I'm a skeptic. I don't believe everything. I don't.
I think you have to be.
Right. And I'm like, who gave you guys to take that name? Because I'm a skeptic too. What's going on?
What happened is that when the paranormal field used to be under a negative halo and it was underground, so to speak, you couldn't even talk about it. The family back in the day, right? It was very hush hush. Then TV and the shows, everything made it mainstream. Well, the pendulum swung so far in the other direction that now it's a bunch of people running around in black t-shirts and everything's a ghost and everything's a demon. And it went so far the other way that what happened was, and this is how a system will self-regulate, people created a role as skeptics or debunkers, and they have channels now. And it's necessary because of the insane levels of bullshit that permeate.
Because you want to believe. You want to believe. And I can appreciate that. I want to see something strange. I want to see, like, I want to see that. Right? But again, it's so important to be critical, skeptical, and on the verge of believing and not believing. You have to be. I'm with that with everything. That's just me.
That's the way to be.
It's a balance, and in order to get that perfect answer, so to speak, you've got to be able to take from the good and the bad and give your final answer, so to speak.
Yeah, and see, this is where character and integrity comes into play, because now if Bryan shows you something, your belief in whether or not you're seeing something that's actually phenomenological is going to be based on the evidence, not his credibility, because you already know that he's a good guy, you can trust him.
Right.
So the character and integrity of the person is vital. I've seen, and I haven't, somebody sent it to me because people will send me stuff sometimes. Somebody wrote and put forth an academic essay, white paper, that had to do with philosophy stuff. That was it was complete technical masturbation. They didn't know half of the shit that was in there. They didn't know half of the shit that was in there. It was clearly AI written. From where it came, it could not have been the person who authored it, who put it forward. There's just no way. And there's no integrity there. And when you have that, then it's very easy for to go off to the races. And then now we can't trust what we see, what we hear sometimes. You have to be skeptical of everything like that, because there are a lot of opportunities to create stuff. And a lot of the YouTube channels that have a lot of, big numbers and followers. And that's another thing that our field never had before. Back in the day, it never had celebrity, and now it does. And now people's pathway in the paranormal is the same way you get in your car and turn on your navigation. What's the quickest way you can get there with the least amount of resistance and avoid all the other fuckers that are out there on the road? Get me there. And that's what they're doing.
If you stick with people like Bryan and go out on investigations, you'll have an experience sooner or later. You just got to surround yourself with the right people, seriously, because if you're not around the right people, you probably won't get an experience. But if you get people like Bryan, give it some time.
I don't know if you guys realize this, but Bryan lives on the West Coast. I live in Pennsylvania. And
you
I'm
mentioned Patterson before.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Patterson.
Where in PA are you, if you don't mind me asking, or roundabout?
I'm about 35 minutes southeast of Scranton.
You're not far.
You're not far from
we're literally maybe like an hour and a half or so, 2 hours from you the most.
I think Bryan told me where you guys were. I'm located in a very small rural town called Lake Ariel, which is near Hamlin, Honesdale, Hawley, all the H words. What else?
By Route 80 or 78?
84 is closest to me.
84.
But in order to get to Route 80, I got to go about maybe 28 miles through some back roads to get to Route 80. And it's basically 380 to get to 80. But
I know where he is. Yeah. It's not far.
Oh, okay. I'd love to hook up with you guys someday, and you know,
we could have you out. We could have you at an event that we do. We're in Pennsylvania pretty often.
That's what I was just about to say. We're in Pennsylvania a lot, so yeah.
But I gotta get out there and meet him. We've never met, and I gotta meet Robert and Sandra and you guys, and maybe go to the New Jersey Paracon or something like that.
It's a great event to go to.
So.
I've told Bryan many times I wish we lived closer because I would love to go with him, because I'm a photographer by trade. I'm a professional photographer. So
cool. I love taking photography. I mean, photographs. I'm not a professional, but I do pretty okay.
But I bet he's really good if somebody has pictures that they think is something paranormal. If there's alternate explanations, I bet you could run through the gamut of what they might be.
I would love to do stuff like that. Unfortunately, the only people that I know around here are probably just, like you said, the black t-shirt people with intent on getting clicks. Before we go any further, I do need to ask you this. Now, in the early part of our conversation, you talked about how you were taking the white noise and you're slowing it down.
Yeah.
Why? What made you say, hey, let's slow it down? What made you do that?
We probably kind of touched on it really quick and moved off of it. Yeah, we didn't really focus on it a lot. Yeah, we didn't focus on it a lot.
It's okay.
We had an experience in Vernon, New Jersey at an event where everybody was walking through the location, and I stayed down there running the system. And I said, hey, if you know who I am, go ahead and say it. And I heard on. And I went, this thing's on. That was it. Event goes, we do the whole night, yada, yada. A couple of days later, whatever it is, I'm listening to the recording. And they happen to be listening to, I'll always record on a recorder app on the phone, just a recorder, and not a paranormal, just a recorder. And I'll record on a digital recorder also. So I happen to be listening to it on the phone, and I hear something, the on thing. So I slowed it down. It didn't have a lot of options. It had 100% or 50% speed. So this is the one that she referred to earlier, where on the recording, I sound drunk because it's 50% slowed down. But the voice was enunciating like William Shatner in Star Trek. It was very emphatic. And you could hear it was
I don't know what's going on.
Like that. But it was female, and it said, Ronnie, it's mom, it's Lucy. Now, my mother would have called me that. Her mother's name was Lucy. I'm connecting. And I said, is my mother going to be here tonight, without even hearing that? And he goes, yes, you're lucky. I heard that when I got home, 50% slowed down. Now, the important thing, the takeaway here is that all the work that we're doing, we're standing on the shoulders of people who did this before us. So having respect and reverence for the people whose work influenced or informed us is critical. Had I not, that wouldn't have meant any more to me in that moment than I missed something. But what I remembered was Konstantin Radove, who, again, before they were EVPs, they were called Radove voices, said that these voices come in faster than we can detect, faster than the human vocal tract is capable of speaking. I don't care
if it's a theory or is that a fact?
It's a fact. It doesn't matter if it's an auctioneer on cocaine. They can't speak that fast.
There's no way. When they try, they'll slur on their words. Believe me.
And again,
I type 225 words per minute.
Court reporter.
Per minute. And sometimes people try to talk 225 words per minute. And they tend to slur on their words. Our tool is not capable. it only goes up to a certain point. It has its limits.
Yeah.
Same thing with the ears, with our hearing. So yeah.
So I looked for components that I could put into this. If you know music, it's a VST. It's a virtual studio setup that we're using for the filtration to reduce the noise for. Right. And so I was looking for something that was going to slow it down in real time.
So to slow it down, but still be able to hear it with
right. We try not
without
to slow
right without distortion.
Right.
Yep.
Just enough so we don't distort the other way. Right. Exactly.
Right. So there are actually programs within like I know in music programs like like Sonar or the other popular musical
Audacity, Waveform.
Yeah. So there are ways of slowing down a track, in this case, vocals, or anybody speaking. You can slow it down, but it'll still sound at a normal pitch.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you're looking. That's what you're saying. You went and used.
And well, I don't know if we mentioned it, but we do it in real time. It's live. So I know he mentioned recordings, but when we talk to these voices, we actually have had dialogue. Like I've actually heard it say, "Hi, Lourdes," and I go, "Hey, how are you? I'm doing good, babe." We've had that. Honestly, we've had that. It's not just recording.
Yeah.
It's actually live.
Yeah, we're slowing it down in real time. That was what we tried to figure out from that instance that one time. She'll walk down the stairs like late at night. I'll be on the computer trying to work on the sound, make it better. She'll walk down. She already went to bed. She comes down for a bottle of water, and the voice goes, "Hi, Lourdes," when she walks into the room. I have no real world physicalist metaphysics explanation for sound, like how that could happen.
I mean, we don't always get dialogue back and forth. I mean, not saying that it, but we always do get voices,
right?
But not necessarily back and forth, or but we have had on occasions dialogue back and forth,
and that's why in
real time
we wanted to slow it down in real time. And the way
look at Myke's face,
the way you described it, was spot on. That's essentially what we're doing, is we're slowing it down in real time and not distorting it.
Let's go a little darker.
Okay.
We spoke earlier about the occult, my knowledge of the occult, Satanism and witchcraft, and that sort of thing. Where do you stand in your beliefs on the possibility of there being demonic or evil spirits or entities that are out there that might be trying to punch a hole into our dimension? Do you feel that there's a possibility that you might be able to connect with one of these so-called entities from another plane, and whether or not that could be a cause for alarm, danger, like,
I say if you go looking for it, you're gonna find it. If you don't, right? Again, intent. If you go look at it, people do it and they can do whatever they want. I don't judge, I don't care. But if you're gonna do that, that's what you're gonna find. If you go the other way, that's the likelihood, because like we get fooled by human beings. So yes, there could be instances that could happen, but to be honest with you, those are rare occasions. I believe, like where we bring in Johnny Zaffis, who's a demonologist and things like that. And I know from experience of when I was a child. So it happens, but not the way people think that it happens on an everyday occasion. It doesn't happen on an everyday occasion. But
what do you mean?
Old, yes.
Zach Bagans, like every week on Ghost Adventures, they find demons and they
every
them out. I mean, come on.
Day. Let me tell you, if you were experiencing demons every single day, the way he would be so depleted. Like he would be so depleted. Right. There's no possible way.
And again, I'll circle back to before, names and descriptions, labels for things, right? A demon is a name that's given to an experience with, I guess, what we would consider a disembodied intelligence that is not positive, that is malevolent. It could very well be, how would you say, like, it could just be a negative entity.
It's a negative entity that is allegedly from the pits of hell, so they say, or anything associated with the possibility of being dead in hell, so to speak. Hell could be whatever you describe it to be, heaven and hell. But if you're talking about demons are these negative energies, and they are associated specifically with, the devil and hell and that sort of thing, as opposed to a poltergeist or some sort of a paranormal encounter or a ghost or whatever, where these things are allegedly the remnants, if you want to call it that, of a passed on deceased person, the soul, if you will, the energy, if you will. So there is a distinct difference between a ghost, a paranormal situation, or a demon. When you're talking about demon through witchcraft or Satanism, it's a completely different conjuring of a being.
Right. No, absolutely. And see there again, the differentiation therein lies in the ideology.
I think it's
that's framing it.
Yeah, I think it's all states of behavior.
Right.
And then you're just framing it a certain way. And then the intent, if you're gonna do demonology. Go ahead, honey. I interrupted you.
You didn't interrupt me.
Yeah, so if you're gonna do that witchcraft, that's how you're gonna right? If you do witchcraft, that's how you're gonna describe it. If you want to do bad intent to someone, then maybe you bring in, Teth, whatever. I don't want to use the same word name, but you bring it to do this bad deed, right? So I think it's all the same thing, and it's all just behavior, good, bad, and the intent behind it, or whatever, and the way you describe it. Honestly, that's I truly, believe.
Yeah, I think
depending on the behavior and what you want from it.
There's archetypal roles that we would call
what you want from it,
good or evil.
So if you want a particular action done, they'll say they bring in Seth, let's say, or this other person will say they bring in the devil or whatever, but they want that particular action done.
Right. And this is not to discount, debunk, or devalue the experience or what it is people are referring to. It's just to delineate that is that the labels and the descriptions are not the thing described. Right, it's what we call it. Like when we speak something, as an example that I love that Dr. Kastrup will do is we'll say, "What is this?" The fist, right? It has a proper noun. It has a name. Where did it go? It was never. It was never a thing. It's a behavior. It's a doing of the field of subjectivity.
It's a behavior.
It's a behavior. It's not a thing, but we gave it a name for the purposes of referring to it. So the naming convention is arbitrary, but the experience itself is not.
Right.
And there's different versions. I know before when you had that screen up, it was something about tulpa, right? The thought forms. And people refer to tulpas, and there's another thing they refer to as an egregore. There's a third category that never really comes up in the paranormal, which is called the Boltzmann brain, which is a hypothetical self-aware entity that arises from random thermodynamic fluctuations, forming almost like a complete brain.
Hey, watch your language.
Almost like a complete brain. It's very short-lived, very ephemeral, and it can seem almost like the same thing as it would come across as like a tulpa or a thought form, but it's statistically supposedly more probable for that to happen than perhaps the other two. But that's so it's another term for something. So again, the labeling and the naming.
If the both of you, if I were to sit here and say to you or ask you the following question, I'd like to know how you would follow up with an answer. With all the experience and work that you guys have been doing with your new method of, I guess, contacting otherworldly spirits or entities, what would you say, or shall I say, where would you say you believe these voices are coming from? If you had to give some sort of an answer, what what would you think would be the best way to describe where these alleged voices are coming from? Heaven, hell, limbo,
right?
I would say I believe they're all around us right now, just like radio frequency waves. They're around us. They're part of everything, everywhere. We're immersed in it.
You believe that after a person dies, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're saying is when a person dies, their soul, for lack of a better term, because we really don't know what a soul is, but we know it's the consciousness of our memories and everything we know. When we die, the physical body dies, or it stops functioning, and this energy, invisible energy, comes out and just kind of hangs around,
becomes part of everything, because we're part of a collective consciousness. It's almost like when you bring in religion, right? The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So we were part of a whole, and then we dissociated. We live our lives, and then we die, and then we reassimilate. Is that the word?
Reassimilate.
Reassimilate back into
reassimilate or reincarnate.
Reassimilate. So reincarnation is a different rabbit hole, but just to kind of give context, to give context to what she was saying. Okay. Just to give context to what she was saying, and to address the question. As idealists, metaphysically, we try to speak to anything that we can support, anything that we can ground in something that either we already know or that we can scientifically at least support some way. We can infer it from something else. Like dark matter was never measured or detected. It was inferred through observation and through science with cosmology. So we try to start with what we know and what we can support and ground. And if we can explain it from there before we start inventing different characters and dimensions and all this other kind of stuff to make the theory highly inflationary that we can't support. So idealism says that reality is fundamentally consciousness, right? The one thing that we know that is pre-theoretical, right? Because to know or theorize or assume anything else, one has to be conscious. So that takes primacy. If it exists outside of consciousness, it might as well not exist because we can't know it. So that's our reduction base. From there, we say that is the whole, that is the holistic whole. And then the detraction to idealism with that idea is, well, if there's one mind, one consciousness, how do you explain all of us that identify separately? It's called the decomposition problem. And the answer to that is there something else in nature or reality that we see that is a model of something that would explain it? And there is. It's dissociation, dissociative identity, or used to be called multiple personality, which is one mind that fragments into individual centers of identity. And then comparable to how when you dream, where you dissociate, right? When you dream, you identify as you're the avatar. And then all the other people, sounds, animals, things, and everything you experience, you don't identify as that. But when you wake up, you don't mourn the loss of your dream avatar. You go, oh shit, that was all me. One mind fragmented and created my dissociative state and everything else around us. So that's the model for idealism, right? Just same way my thoughts are objective to you because they're not your own. They appear objective to you and not subjective. So is reality. And that we're each part of that one reality, but we're dissociated. So we think the voices are coming from consciousness, by which we are within. We are part of consciousness. So see how under physicalism, where your brain creates consciousness, how this wouldn't work? Because then everything's happening here. And there's no world out there except for numbers and measurements, no qualities at all.
Right.
So that's the model we think. We think the voices are coming from consciousness, but these things are not something that our senses can normally detect. We're essentially born into the cockpit of an airplane. We have sensors that tell us through measurement and assessment what's happening around us. In the same way a pilot can fly and land a plane purely on instrumentation, if you blacked out the windows, so do we rely on the very accurate information that our instrumentation, our touch, taste, smell, sight, hearing tells us. The difference between us, this comes from Dr. Bernardo Castro. The difference between us and the pilot is the pilot never mistakes the dashboard for the sky. We do. We think that we are taking in reality in its totality, everything the way it is in and of itself, and we're seeing it all and taking it all in, and we're not. We're getting a dashboard representation. We're getting the representation of what's out there, the image of what's out there. And it's not to say there isn't a world out there. We believe there is, but it's not physical. It's mental. And so we
Could it be physical to them?
Well,
I mean, that's obviously a theory.
Right.
But I mean, do you think it's a possibility that they could be an actual physical being somewhere else?
It's possible. Yes.
I mean, ultimately, well, you started out by saying that the possibility of them being deceased people that have now become energy in all around us. But again, is there a possibility that there could be some other dimension that physical beings are communicating through this form of technology?
It's possible. But again, I'll go back to, as idealists, we try to only speak to what we can support and can empirically ground in something. So you, just because you can't disprove something doesn't mean it's true. Just because you can't prove it doesn't mean it's false, right? We look at, do we have any reason to lean into it? I could say that instead of gravitational forces and all the different things out in space that are dark matter that are causing things to accelerate and move around and spin, and instead of all that stuff happening, that really the only reason that stuff happens is that there's a giant flying spaghetti monster who's spinning the planets with his noodly appendages. I can say that, right? And you can't prove it's not true, right? But is there any reason to lean into it? Do we have anything to make us believe or support that assertion? And we don't. So it's not whether or not we can prove it or not. There may be all these different dimensions, and they may be physical in other dimensions like people think. Maybe. But what we can support and explain equally and with less steps is that we know consciousness exists, we know we're within it, and we know that we're getting voices that we can understand. So can, within that consciousness, explain it without having to invent extra dimensions and physical forms and other dimensions and technology that they're using, is fewer steps.
Right, because we don't believe that there's like individual ghosts. We're going to keep it to this dimension right here.
Right.
We're ghosts and things like that.
Meaning you guys personally, this is your personal belief?
Yeah, personally. We don't believe that it's individual beings. But when they communicate to us, they communicate to us as a whole. And when we perceive them, we interpret them as we interpret them, whether it be angels or loved one. Right.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, that's correct. Flying spaghetti monster.
Oh goodness, that's quite funny.
Yeah, I didn't make that up.
So let's say this guy right here. Let's say this being
guy.
This guy.
So let's say he's what we perceive to be an angel. What we believe is, if this is an angel, it doesn't have a physical body until we perceive it. If it happens to communicate and we experience an angel, and whatever we interpret, whether people perceive it as an angel or their grandmother or whatever it is, that's what they perceive. But we don't think that physical form exists out there. It only until we perceive it, when we have these paranormal experiences where it presents itself in physical form, because we are perceiving it and interpreting it.
Right. Under idealism, the paranormal is normal. It's nature doing what it does. Just because we don't sense everything that happens around us doesn't mean that it's not real. We have what's salient to survive, and we don't, talking to ghosts or seeing spirits or whatever you want to call them does not have any purpose evolutionary wise for us to be able to do it.
Fascinating. Bryan, did you have any other questions that you wanted to ask?
No, I could just listen to you guys talk.
Me too.
For another 3 hours. Unfortunately, I got stuff to do.
You guys brought out a lot of really good stuff for us to address, so we appreciate it. Go ahead.
I wanted to mention something before we forget. So you mentioned the New Jersey Paranormal Expo. So we're going to be in it. We have our own exhibit room. But I wanted to mention our friend Chris DeCesare. He has a Netflix series coming out. It came out today. It launched today. And he'll be also at the...
What's it called? What's it called?
It's called True Haunting. It's if you like horror and stuff, that's it.
That's it.
James Wan, who directed Insidious, The Conjuring, Aquaman, he's done a bunch of stuff. He's known for horror. He directed, it's 5 episodes of True Haunting. The fourth and fifth are about a house in Salt Lake City. The first three are about a 1980s college dorm haunting that Chris DeCesare there went through. He's one of the nicest human beings you'll ever know. He is just a sweetheart, and he's brought us on, and hopefully by now, at least it seems like maybe you'll see why. He's going to tell the story and answer questions based on the Netflix depiction and what he went through in college. It was not fun for him. He wasn't hunting ghosts. He was surviving. He never asked for this. He's probably the only paranormal personality who didn't desire to be one. And he wants us to come on the tour with him to do online events and in-person events, which I think the first one we're starting off is October 30th at the Liberty Science Center in Jersey City, New Jersey, where we're going to speak to the metaphysical, philosophical nuts and bolts of how these phenomena, the way we've been talking today, could happen. We're going to give support for an explanation for what he experienced, and then he'll answer questions and tell the story. We're immensely honored to be a part of it.
Right. So when I was discussing before working with people that we trust, like mediums and ghost box builders, this gentleman, we know him personally for years, and we trust him and we believe his story. And it is one of those rare instances that I was talking about that doesn't usually happen, but it happened to him. And I believe every word that he says. Now, I don't know how they depict it in the series or how exaggerated they've made it, but the foundation of the story is real.
Yeah, there's probably a little exaggeration because James Wan does horror, and he wanted, from what he told us, they wanted to give people the visceral fear. Because when Chris went through this was not a cool little thing to just do like a little casual documentary about it. It was traumatic.
He was terrified.
A lot of what he went through with no explanations and not a lot of places to turn. So I think they're trying to impart that so people feel maybe a little bit of what he may have felt when he went through it at the time. So it's probably a little bit hyped up in that sense, but not for fabrication or sensationalizing. I think more to try to emit what it was or close to what he may have felt.
His terror. Yeah, because he was terrified. Because one of the things that like he was having, just real quick, he was having an instance of he experienced something just recently and it terrified him. But me, I grew up with it. So I helped him see it in a different perspective that helped him feel better. Yeah. So, it's all how you look at it.
Is quite astonishing. I wish we could talk more about this. I hope you guys will come back on our show.
Anytime.
Absolutely fascinating stuff.
I've been wanting to bring someone onto the paranormal, on this show that does the paranormal. And by listening to your podcast you've been on and things, I thought you'd be the perfect people to be the first on our show. Because I knew you'd get along with Myke, because he's kind of hard to get along with.
The mustache did it for us. Yeah. It was the mustache.
It was great.
And you guys are really respectful. You're very. I love the way you think. I'm completely on board with you, and keep it up. I'm so excited to see what you guys come up with in the future. I'm watching you constantly, and really impressed with you.
Yeah, we definitely would like you guys to come back maybe in a couple months or something in the new year. We're actually going to be taking off. Well, here's a quick announcement. We're actually going to be taking off in December for the end of the episodes for Hideous Diversion, and then we will be coming back in January for those listeners who are just listening now. But once we get into the new year, we'd like to contact you and get you back for some more stories. Having said that, I would like to thank Ron and Lourdes. Am I saying it right? Lourdes?
You are. Thank you. Yes.
Yacovetti. Why don't you guys give us whatever you'd like to promote? Websites, Instagram, Facebook, all that jazz. Why don't you guys?
Yeah, I got their website right here. They're squared away. They gave me all their stuff.
All right, you're gonna post it because I was gonna say if they want to say it right now, they can go right ahead and say it.
Yeah.
Just go.
First and foremost, we want to promote. That's our website. We want to promote you guys, and for people who tuned in and watched, we appreciate the support. We think you should keep supporting shows like this. I think one of the things that plagues our field is entitlement. People are very much, don't you know who I am? Don't you know what I deserve?
Well, don't you know who I am?
We are
You're hideous.
Yeah.
That is correct.
We're gratitude based. Every opportunity we get to do something like this, we are appreciative of it. So that first and foremost, this is the website. If you hit the this is the events tab. If you hit the home button, and you can see, so at the top, I just recently soft launched a course on stuff we were just talking about tonight. A lot of it's metaphysics and paranormality. I'm giving explanations for a lot of the theories and stuff that have persisted in the paranormal probably longer than they should have. Things like stone tape theory, the explanation behind psychometry, the fact that I believe there is no such thing as a residual haunting. So a lot of that is in the course. There's some videos you can see there. A couple of the academic essays that I've written are also available there.
It's important to know that we're not saying that we know it all, because we're not saying that we don't know it all.
Right.
But all we're trying to do is provoke thought.
Yeah.
Right. And help people see a different way. So and we truly do believe in analytic idealism, and we feel that it's the closest that comes to what we experience in the paranormal. And actually, I think is very helpful as far as our normal behavior, because people need to figure out their philosophy, their foundation and their philosophy is off, and they're taking from everywhere. And that's why our behaviors are erratic as a society. Just saying.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Any Instagram or Facebook or X account you want to mention?
We don't use X so much anymore. We both have Instagram accounts that are
Lourdes Gonzales.
Our names, which are right there or right here.
And Facebook is both Facebook, Instagram is Ron Yacovetti, Lourdes Gonzales.
And then we have the Facebook page that's called Analytic Idealism and Paranormality.
Right. We have the Digital Seance Experience and the Analytic Idealism and Paranormality.
Right. Those pages are also on our Facebook pages.
Yep. That is quite a collection of social media. All right. Again, thank you both very, very much for coming on the show. The conversation was absolutely fabulous and intriguing, and just what else can I say? Very interesting.
Myke, let's give him a golf clap.
I love that. That's awesome.
You guys were great.
Thank you.
You guys were very kind, very respectful.
Of course.
You really did bring out a lot of good stuff that allowed us to elaborate on. The questions were absolutely really good.
Thank you.
We would come back anytime and reach out to us, perhaps, because you don't live too far with. Maybe we can get Myke out to an event or something we do.
Yeah, sure. If you're ever going to be out in Pennsylvania, northeastern Pennsylvania, if I can maybe meet up with you, what I'll do is are you in connection with Bryan? You have his phone number or something, or email?
I have his email, and he has me on Facebook also. So yeah.
I'll tell Bryan to contact you, and I'll have him send you my cell phone information and or emails. So if you know you're going to be in the area, if you need a photographer, if I'm available, I would be interested in hooking up with you guys for that event. In any event, all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have been watching Hideous Diversion podcast with me, Myke Hideous, and Bryan B., my co-host, and our guests, Ron Yacovetti and Lourdes Gonzales from the the GonYac Paranormal. Am I saying it right?
Yes.
You are.
Okay. And if you have gotten this far in the podcast, I mean, wow, right? I mean, like, wow. Some really heavy duty stuff. And that's about it. So we are going to cut them loose, and Bryan and I are going to finish up the rest of the show and sign out. So, ladies and gentlemen, say goodnight to Ron and Lourdes. You guys can just hit your leave button, and we will talk to you in the future. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you again for having us.
Good night.
Anytime.
All right.
Touch.
Take care. And there they go, folks. That was quite interesting, Bryan.
Well, I told you.
I told you. Yeah, that was really a fascinating conversation. I love that sort of stuff. Pretty deep at some points. Pretty deep. I had to really back them up and be like, say it in English.
It's funny. The few podcasts I've listened to, there were some people that could hone them back a little bit. and there were some people that couldn't, you know, and I think he did it at the right time, because what he's saying, you're trying to take it all in, and
Sure, it's a lot.
you know, I've heard it a few times now.
Sure.
So it flows a lot easier for me. But yeah,
Right.
and they're good about it. They're just stop and they listen to you, and then they answer your question.
And that's
So,
important, because sometimes, like, I don't know, did he say he works with a professor at a some sort
yes,
of
well, a doctor. Yeah.
Okay. And does he teach at all? Is he a teacher? I didn't get that.
I don't
part.
know anything about his personal life.
I see.
Yeah. So,
well, the reason I bring it up is because, you know, like, sometimes you get a person who is incredibly intelligent, or persons who are incredibly intelligent, and they are so focused on what it is that they do and or say, that when they're expressing themselves or having a conversation with someone, like, you know, some dumb idiot like me who doesn't know, you know, I wouldn't know my head from my ass in a thing like, you know, talking to voices from somewhere else. So you talk to somebody like that, and if they're really engaged in what it is that they do, they might come off as being, not going to say egotistical or anything, but they're so engulfed in their own thing that when they express it to you, it goes right over your head, and you don't quite get it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think I got most of it. There was a couple times where I really had to just kind of, like, you know, can you repeat that kind of thing? But yeah, fascinating people. Well done. So there you go. All right, folks. Yeah, we're going to wrap it up now. The next 2 episodes that will be coming out, episode 31 and 32, will be dedicated to spooky Halloween events and stories. Yes. I'm very happy with the next one that we're going to do. And I'm not going to give it away, but I'll give it away. We're going to talk about some serial killers. So I've been doing my research now. I've always had a fascination with these kooky, crazy killers. And so, yeah, we're going to kind of focus a little bit on that. Bryan, I don't know if you had anything you were going to add to that.
No. I know a bit about
that might change. That might change.
It's a very paranormal investigators love that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
Yep.
Well, once I send Bryan my my layout, my format of things that we're going to talk about, he might add a few things once he sees what I'm going to be discussing.
What the fuck, Myke?
In any event, so yeah, the next 2 episodes, 31 and 32, will be dedicated to Halloween. Not just serial killers, but for the first one, the reason I chose serial killers is because of one in particular. And I'm not going to get into the details, but one in particular that spawned a whole generation of killers and movies. So that will be for the first.
Who that is.
Yes. Well, that's not given away yet. And then I think what we may do, and I haven't really discussed this with Bryan yet, this is the first time he's hearing it, but what we may do is also have a discussion about horror movies, because you know we love movies on this channel, especially horror movies. But we'll see. There's nothing that's not set in stone for 32. But yeah, so Bryan and I will discuss it, and yeah, we're looking forward to it, and we might even dress up as monsters.
Man, you're giving everything away, bro.
I said might.
Damn.
All right. I think we're good to go. If you liked this episode, please subscribe, like, share, and whatever else you might want to do with it. Yeah, that's it. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching tonight's episode. And we will see you at episode number 31. All right, guys. Bryan, thank you for all your magnificent help this evening. Your amazing engineering work and producing work, for which, if Bryan did not exist, neither would this show. So thank you to Bryan. All right, folks. Have a good night and stay spooky. spooky.